All right, there we go. Hey now, good morning, everybody. Welcome to a new setup. We are integrating, we are getting our workflow organized, and I have my face on way too many screens in front of me. Welcome to the show, back to the radio show here, 253-263-1540. I'm halfway in the old setup, halfway in the new setup, but we're going to get it done. So I got TikTok over here, we're live on YouTube over there, 253-263-1540. 253-263-1540. Welcome to the show. I do believe we have comments on everywhere. We're ready to go. We'll take your calls. We'll hang out. Supposed to be headed to Los Angeles for this live fest event. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I'll get your thoughts on that too. 253-263-1540. Now, I know you can't necessarily hear the music on TikTok right now, but I'm half in the old setup, half in the new setup. I have moved the radio show into the rest of the streaming workflow. My hope eventually will be able to do this show not just live on YouTube and TikTok, but simultaneously stream it like we've been testing with Twitch and TikTok and all these other platforms. So good morning, everybody. Good to see you. Welcome there over on TikTok. Hello there over on YouTube. But it's a lot of tech. It's a lot of tech, and I am trying to make sure that everything is working, but it looks like it is. So welcome to the show. Good morning, everybody. Good to see you. Subscriber only mode. Messages that appear from people who subscribe to this channel. I didn't mean to be in subscriber only mode. What is that about? See, this is what I'm saying. I'm doing a radio show, but now I'm also trying to figure out why that's not right. So, listen, bear with me. It is a work in progress. It's not exactly the way I like doing things, but there's really no other way to do it if you're actually trying to still stream and develop. So I have no idea. It says comments are on, and I can't really help you there. So hop over to YouTube and say hello. Give us a call, 253-263-1540. Supposed to head to Live Fest. And I really do want to hear somebody call in so I can both test the phone lines and get some real-time feedback, no pun intended. But I'm supposed to go to Los Angeles for this Live Fest event, and Los Angeles is on fire. And part of me says, first of all, I hope everybody's safe. All right? And that goes without saying. Obviously, not everybody is safe. There's a lot of property being lost. I don't know how many people have, God forbid, passed away. So it's horrible. And it's horrible that there's no solution to this. But I don't think at this point Live Fest even being held should be a thing. I think tomorrow, or not tomorrow, Friday, when Live Fest is meant to be held, they should probably just maybe pump the brakes, because that's in the heart of Hollywood. And I'm hearing on the news this morning that they're asking off-duty firefighters to come into work. It just sounds like to me between, a lack of resources, between, staying off the roads to be safe, between air quality and all these things, that maybe, just maybe, it's the wrong time to be having an event about TikTok influencers. I don't know. That's just me. I also don't really want to go, but that's got nothing to do with my opinion, I assure you. 253-263-1540. Let me tell you something. You go to these events, and I'm very thankful for what we've built. I'm very thankful for the fact that, not only did last year we get number 4 in Live Fest while being in the parks, this year, without even trying, we took number 7 and we weren't even in the parks. So I'm very thankful for the size and the success of this community that we've built. But when you go to these events, it's just people with ring lights. That's all it is. They just got ring lights, and that's all it is. It looks like nobody on YouTube. Oh, maybe some, you know what? Maybe you can comment on YouTube. Do me a favor. Somebody go say hello on YouTube so I know it's working. But it is one of those things where you show up to these events like a typical Hollywood red carpet event. It's all for the photo op. I could care less about the photo op. I can't even keep up with what I got. I'm supposed to be posting on my Instagram stories every day, and I forget. I should just post a cup of coffee. People would care. Michael, thank you for your help. That's all I needed to see. I have so much technology here. If you missed the live last night, I gave like a little tour of it all. We're half in. Good morning, Shelley. Good morning. We're halfway here. We're halfway there. It is just one of those things where we're going to get it done, but we're going to get it done incrementally. Okay. So we did a live briefly from the park yesterday. I wasn't there, but we had a camera in the park, and we were testing out the connection. And despite some of what I heard from people when I went to the playback, some of the connection looked really solid. So one step at a time, one step at a time. But as far as this Live Fest event goes, I'm not really, look, I've never been one to want to go to any of these kind of like, it's not even an award show. It's just a party. And if you've done it once, you've done it twice. And I've done it once. And for me, between that and already what's going on in LA, like if I was going to do anything in LA, it wouldn't be that, you know? It wouldn't be that. So we'll see what happens. Shelly, thank you very much. We'll see what happens. 253-263-1540. But I'd like to think that there's, it's so sad. I mean, I'm scrolling this morning and looking at these clips. And I think there was a clip from James Woods. And he's just about to leave. And it's like the fire in the house right across the way from him burning and starting to encroach. And it's impacting everybody. It seems to only get worse every season. I don't know statistically if that's true, but it just seems like there's no grip on the situation. And one of the things I heard on the news this morning was that, that when it gets to this level, they can't even really get up in the air. And again, I don't know how true that is. I'm hearing it on CNN. I mean, CNN literally just spent 30 seconds listening to the wind. So, you got to consider the source. That's just what I choose to listen to because they're all direct. And sometimes I just roll my eyes. I mean, I like some of the people on that channel, but I'm like, really? Y'all just spent 30 seconds listening to the wind? Gripping coverage, CNN. Bravo, bravo, bravo. 253-263-1540. I'm trying to get accustomed to the new setup. We're down here, and I'm integrated into this workflow. And at the moment, because I'm half here and half there, I just don't really know, how to manage both cameras and interact with everything. Typically, everything's on one screen on one side. Although I shouldn't say that. Upstairs, it wasn't that way. But when we're down here, the idea is to integrate everything so I can actually read the comments. But right now, I'm kind of making myself dizzy. 407-461-9457. Friday is also the Supreme Court decision on the future of TikTok. If you've been following along on that, the Supreme Court's supposed to make a decision on that Friday. Now, I'm of the mindset, from everything I've heard, that TikTok won't be going anywhere. If it does, c'est la vie, such is life. However, I keep hearing these rumblings that Mr. Wonderful is going to purchase TikTok. Now, I don't know how true that is. I can't even remember where that's from. I saw that somewhere a year ago, and I saw that somewhere yesterday. But so we'll see what happens. Friday is both Live Fest and ironically, they're having a TikTok party on the day that the Supreme Court is going to make the decision. So we'll see. In many ways, I'd much rather be live and watching that and listening to that and paying attention to that than being involved in all the Live Fest of it all. I'm much more interested to hear how that goes. I do think the Supreme Court's going to wind up just kicking the can down the road. It's true water-dropping planes can't fly at night regardless, and helicopters can't fly when winds in this strong, only a ground. Yeah, and it seems like their resources are tapped. And it's a shame. It's a shame that, look, I just don't want to repeat things as gospel, so that I take everything with a grain of salt. And it's one of those things where you're like, we can do so much. We have so much ability. We have so much technology. How do we solve this problem? That's just where my mind goes. If it's a ground game in terms of, other than human beings, I just wonder what technology could be. It is horrible. And I saw footage. You never know what you're watching anymore online, honestly. So I shouldn't even say what I saw. And it's just like you see these clips and you're just like, oh my gosh, is this how this fire started? But then you got to remember, you know what? I don't even know what I'm watching anymore. Between AI and the fact that a clip can be taken from any time of day and passed off as current, you have to be very, very careful with what you absorb and then what you repeat. That goes back to that spread of information conversation. But from everything I'm seeing, it just seems like they're completely strapped, and it's only getting worse. I heard a reporter talk about, trying to get out of Malibu last night and the sparks flying over them and everything. And you ask yourself, with all this technology, how can we not solve this problem? How do we not have a better response to this? That's what I want to know. And I just because we don't have something now to solve it doesn't mean we can't in the future. I know there's technology out there. I just don't know if it's enough. That's a good question for Nick, though. Nick was a firefighter. Nick was a New York City firefighter. He could shed some light on that. 253-263-1540. We're in the new year, and I've been so busy with all of this technology and implementation and whatnot. I have not even reached out to our podcast sponsors. I think I talked to 2 of them about seeing if they want to renew. So I don't even technically know who my podcast sponsors are right now, full disclosure, because I haven't taken the time to ask anybody if they're renewing. So if it hasn't come up in conversation, I don't know. So what I'll do later today during this program is, as a courtesy, I will just read all the sponsors off again. But technically, we're in a new year, so I have to take the time today to do that. So I say that out loud because what I will do today is present the sponsors at some point. But let's take your calls, 253-263-1540. Let me refresh, because I remember sometimes that doesn't do what it's supposed to do. Now, the reason that I started doing this radio show was to start having longer form conversation. Disney's just a jumping off point for this conversation. If you want to talk about what's going on in the parks right now, I at some point do want to talk about this ad campaign, if you've seen that. But the real reason that I've been spending the time to implement all of this technology, and yes, we will get back to the parks. It's the burning question, I know. It's almost like they don't sell tickets. And which is not a fair statement because they're completely overpriced, but it's a joke. So you get to this point where you're developing all this technology, and you ask yourself, where is the real execution? Like, where does this all really start to pay off? We are not even into this new administration. And the conversation about the Panama Canal and Greenland and Canada and all this craziness. And we haven't even started. Like, literally, we haven't even gotten started. And what I think the real value at some point is going to be with this entire platform as a whole, as it evolves, is not just being in the parks, and not just the ability to park hop, and not just the ability to bring you lives from all over the park without really having to run all over the park, right? Which just makes the viewing experience a little more fluid. But not just that, but the ability at some point to be able to have somebody somewhere to get answers to questions. And, it's funny because I make these notes in my phone. When I'm an independent, I make these notes in my phone. And I wrote this note. And the note I wrote was, I feel like our two parties are in a power struggle and a race to the bottom at the same time. And the only thing that the people are getting from it is more suffering. I wrote that in my notes. As soon as I opened up Twitter, I got fed this ad. I don't know who they are, but I got fed this ad. Politicians are the problem. It's time for real change beyond red and blue curtains on a sinking ship. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just wrote that in my notes and opened up Twitter and got fed this ad, which is kind of scary, but also if you understand how all this tech works, then it's obvious. But the point there, and it's so true, and I know it's a targeted ad, but the point there is that it doesn't really matter to me who is which one of these parties, these joke of a parties are running the government, are running the ship. Like, we all seem to, no matter what they say they're running on, always seem to get screwed. And it's one of those things for me where I'm like, look, I got a platform, and now I got the tech. And if we get to the point, and I don't care if it's saying, oh my gosh, let's get boots on the ground because there's a new party in Disney World, you want to go check it out. That's cool. Yeah, great. But getting to the point a year from now where you're like, oh my gosh, something is happening out there in the world. I can't get there quick enough. We know somebody there. Like this thing with North Carolina. Like, imagine with that whole situation in North Carolina, and not just a Skype call or a Discord low video quality voice chat. I'm talking about being able to go like broadcast quality, like let's cut to Kena and find out, like in other words, I want to see things with my own eyes, and one of the things that I think is really, really lost in this age of social media, to go back to that comment about the video, is you don't know where anything is anymore. Somebody uploads a video and says, here's a homeless guy starting a fire in Southern California the other day, and you don't know if that video is from last year or from this morning, So the value in actually being able to sometimes go live somewhere to see what's happening, I just think that that's a much more valuable tool than anything that I have going on with my particular platform. So using my platform as an incubator is fantastic. But I think in terms of the larger, I see all these adults crying on Twitter about Splash Mountain still. And I'm like, you got to get over it. Like, I have my gripe about the Rivers and how the company does or does not choose to honor the legacy of the founder, and why, or that may or may not be important to the brand, that it's critical to the brand, but that's a conversation for another time. And if you want to have that conversation, call in 253-263-1540, 253-263-1540. But arguing and crying about a theme park, in this time that we're living in, just isn't where the focus needs to be. Escapism is escapism. And I think at the end of the day, I didn't even express my opinions on the parks in the early days because most people don't want to hear them. And I'm often reminded that most people don't want to hear them. Most people are just going to, they just want to put their blinders on. And that's what escapism is. I can appreciate that. But if you're somebody that actually wants to, contribute, God forbid, in a positive way, then you look at the whole of it and you go, all right, this is great. Running around the parks is great. This is great. But this is just a springboard for something much more valuable. And when I look at the chaos that is around the corner, and if you think it's not coming, it's coming. And it comes from all sides, by the way. I don't just attribute that to one party or one leader. Okay? It's just another flavor of chaos. All right? And I've maintained this my whole life, that the Democrats and the Republicans are just two different faces of the same problem. All right. So when I look at all the chaos in the world, and I look at how, we as working class people are constantly getting shorted, you got to have more power in your voice. And these echo chambers aren't it. And sometimes I think it's just getting quality information so that people can form a better opinion. So all of that to say, I like the idea of, hey, let's go live to the scene. I'm not relying on somebody else to do it. I'm not questioning the validity of, a posted video, but the ability, like a live real-time news channel, like a real live news, because, in the streaming world, it's called IRL. IRL means in real life. But at the end of the day, it's all just current events. If you just want to boil it down to an old school legacy term, it's current events. So everything and anything is fair game. If people get stuck on the top of Everest, maybe we got somebody right there. And if somebody literally gets stuck on the top of Everest, theoretically, we could have somebody right there. Although I don't know what the internet connection is like at the top of the real Everest. But you get the point that I'm trying to say. It's like starting out in this bubble and in this world, and that, which is going to be my segue to my next thing, and then going larger. And I keep ranting about this over and over again, and I don't think anybody really even understands. But, that's my effort to communicate, and I think it's lost on most. But that's fine. 253-263-1540, 253-263-1540. Now, let's get to Disney. They put out a new marketing campaign. And I got to tell you, I watched it, but I didn't watch it with the sound on. I couldn't do it. I had somebody else watch it and tell me if it was that bad. And they said, the audio wasn't as bad as you were expecting. But they are, in this video, essentially marketing the things that they've been operating for the last decade. Okay. And it's what was struck me as odd is they weren't showing you, again, I didn't listen to it. I only watched it. But if the things that I think are missing were in the audio, then they're still missing, because trust, nobody's paying attention to both. All right. Not in a 2-3 screen world, in a second screen world. But the idea that Disney had to launch an ad campaign for brand reinforcement, brand reinforcement is a marketing thing. And you do brand reinforcement when you want to remind people that you're there. And it strikes me as really odd that Disney did a brand reinforcement ad. I feel like all of those Walt Disney World vacation videos, like those ads growing up that I would see on TV, those weren't brand reinforcement ads, because they weren't sitting there showing me what Disney has to offer. They were marketing an experience, right? So in other words, it wasn't remember we're here. It was, oh my God, the magic is waiting for you. Like, that was a different sort of thing. And this World's campaign reads as brand reinforcement. And if the Walt Disney Company has to do brand reinforcement, then they're publicly telling you, without telling you, everything you need to know about where they stand as an organization. And I don't believe, and I've said it 100 times, that Epic Universe is a threat to Disney. I think Disney's a threat to Disney. Disney's leadership is a threat to Disney. I think the only thing you will get out of Epic Universe is, at some point with new leadership, you will get a counter response, healthy competition, and maybe some new innovation. And much in the way that Harry Potter spun Galaxy's Edge. You know what I'm saying? So I think maybe in the short term, it takes away some park attendance, but I don't think it moves the needle there. I think when Disney has to do a brand reinforcement ad, Disney's already lost touch with its audience. So really, Epic can capitalize off of that, but I don't think Epic moves the needle because of that. I think rather, Epic puts out some really, innovative, mind-blowing stuff in terms of attractions and entertainment, and then that forces Disney's hand. But that's just healthy competition, and that's going to happen anytime that you have healthy competition. That's Galaxy's Edge. You would have never had Galaxy's Edge if somebody at Universal didn't take a swing at doing Harry Potter. And that whole story is a uphill climb. I mean, the way that the guy that had to fight to get that done, I don't even know the story well enough to tell it. I just know that the guy that wanted to get that done really, really, really had to fight to get it done. And then the success of it, it was a fire. I mean, it's the wrong term to use right now, but it just sparked, a whole new era of Universal theme parks. So we'll see. I just was taken aback by that ad. I found that, I don't know if anybody has any opinions on that. You want to call in, great. If not, so be it. But I thought, wow, this is the first time I've ever seen Disney do brand reinforcement that I can recall. Maybe I'm missing something, but that struck me as sort of a unique moment there in their marketing. Good morning, Megan. Good to see you. Good morning, everybody. Now, I saw something about The Simpsons coming to Disney World, and it was basically just in the context of a survey they were putting out. And I think I might have even brought this up on a previous show. I have no issue personally with The Simpsons coming to the parks. Obviously, I don't expect to see The Simpsons in the Magic Kingdom. The Simpsons in Hollywood Studios. The Simpsons as part of the animation umbrella of things. Okay, fine. I think it's inevitable. The question I have, it's kind of interesting. If you, I grew up on The Simpsons. The question I have is, at what point is the Simpsons no longer The Simpsons? The Simpsons had an edge. And I don't watch I haven't seen any of the stuff Disney's put out with The Simpsons. So this is why we have a phone line. But has the edge been completely cut off The Simpsons, or was it cut off a long time ago? I remember watching older Simpsons episodes compared to what I watched growing up. So newer Simpsons episodes. But I remember watching episodes where they had iPads, and I was like, what is going on here? So for me, I feel like The Simpsons had already dulled at a certain point. So I don't really hear anybody out there saying, oh my gosh, The Simpsons are too edgy for the parks. I feel like at a certain point, The Simpsons have dulled, and the culture's idea of what is edgy has changed. So I don't think that The Simpsons even read as edgy in this environment. So maybe just by default, they've been softened enough for Disney. My question was sort of, do you think that they're being softened if they enter the theme park? But I think if you take a look at the history of The Simpsons, they've been softened over time. So I almost just wonder if it even is a different brand. I feel like at this point, if The Simpsons is just, kind of aw shucks and not so. You remember the days of Homer choking Bart? Now you don't see that, right? It just seems like, oh, Bart, and it just so when I look at The Simpsons now, I see a much, much softer image than the old days. Clearly not the Tracy Ullman days, but those early days where Bart was eat my shorts and super rebellious would have never fit in with Disney. Now you look at it and you go, there are far more edgier cartoons out there. So for me, I don't have an issue with it. And if Universal wants to be done with it, take it back. Now, if Disney wants to develop attractions for The Simpsons, fantastic. Put them in Hollywood Studios. But Hollywood Studios will just become a hodgepodge. It already kind of is. I'm not against it, I guess, but it seems weird. Benefit of having a talk format is to talk it out. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Would you want to see Bart Simpson in a Disney park? Would you care? Would you care if it was Hollywood Studios? Is that the only acceptable park out of the four? Definitely not the Magic Kingdom. Okay? Obviously, Animal Kingdom doesn't make sense. I can't imagine seeing, Homer Simpson walking around Epcot. But, the Simpsons characters in Disney Springs, maybe? I don't know. I'm just saying, you've got them bringing them to the water parks. Where would you put the Simpsons characters in Disney World? They own them. And then at that point, where do you stop? Right? Because don't they have Family Guy? Don't they have Futurama? Now, you're talking about a brand that, I don't know. Simpsons has been on for, 30 plus years or something like that? It's not even new. It's not even new. So the idea of even integrating them into the theme parks, you're integrating old IP. Now, it does speak to the point that they're sitting on stuff. So there's nothing wrong with mining old stuff. I'd be curious to see it. Universal, up at the top of Universal Hollywood, had that Springfield world. It was not much. It was kind of ad hoc. I can't imagine them doing anything like that here. And by the way, I don't even know what they have over at Universal in Orlando because I've never been. The last time I was at Universal Orlando, believe it or not, was they had Nickelodeon and one theme park. I've never even stepped foot in Islands of Adventure. Last time I saw Islands of Adventure, it was a pile of dirt. Weird, I know. 253-263-1540. But would The Simpsons fit? I guess in Hollywood Studios, everything fits. Hollywood Studios is very much the IP park. Now, In my mind, the way to do it would be to do a parade. Because Hollywood studios could use a parade desperately. And one of the things I loved during the pandemic was the cavalcades. Hollywood studios had some fantastic cavalcades. So if studios wanted to do like a walk the movies parade or something like that, now I'm just giving them ideas, but like you could just have everything, like you could just like a Hollywood parade, and you could just have characters from everywhere and you wouldn't have to justify it, right? Maybe just bringing the characters in. Maybe we don't need Simpsons attractions, but they put it in a survey, which means they're looking at it. I would prefer, this is what I would prefer. Not that anybody cares, but I got to fill time with the show doing something. I would prefer that the Magic Kingdom maintains as much of its thematic integrity as possible, even though it's lost so much of it over the years, and that's fine. Okay. And from what I hear, we're going to keep the front of the river. That's what I'm hearing, is we keep the front of the river and the project brings that into the mix, fine. But beyond that, I think if you keep the Magic Kingdom, so the Disney characters, if you will, right? Your princesses, your Winnie the Pooh, your Fantasyland, all of that, okay? Your classic stuff. You've already got a little Pixar bleed into Tomorrowland. Tomorrowland's a whole other problem. But if you keep the Magic Kingdom that park, right, you really do allow the opportunity for Hollywood Studios to be your IP park. And you're pretty much there anyway. So if Studios becomes your IP park, then maybe over time, Epcot can kind of find its way back to the original Epcot of it all. So where does that leave Hollywood Studios? Where does that leave Animal Kingdom? Well, conventional wisdom says they're going to get rid of the animals, but only time will tell. And I don't know what you do with that if you get rid of the animals. 786, you're on the air. Who's this?
Morning, Royce. It's Danny.
Hi, Danny. I was thinking about you this morning. I don't know why. And that sounds weird. But I was like, I didn't have a show yesterday. And I didn't take calls Monday. And Danny likes to call in. And that was the whole thought.
You called me with your thoughts. So you're talking about Disney, which is my favorite subject to talk about. And when you mentioned the Bart, the whole Simpson thing, I would absolutely not want to see the Simpsons as like a real presence in any of the parks, even Hollywood Studios, certainly not an attraction. If I saw them in a parade, if I saw them somewhere in Disney Springs, maybe, but not in the parks and not as an attraction. To be honest, given Disney's recent track record with maintaining acquired IPs and what they've done with them, I wouldn't be interested to see anything, nor would I want them to spend the money instead of upgrading what already exists or, doing a better job. Their failure with the Muppets, what they've done with Star Wars, I'm not interested in seeing anything else. There's so much that they could do with what they already have. I wouldn't want to see anything different.
Now that's
right
interesting. So your opposition is not so much the nature of the characters. Do you find the characters to be too edgy for Disney at this point?
Oh, God, not at all. I don't think they've been edgy for a very long time. I grew up with The Simpsons, and I think the problem is that I think today's atmosphere, today's environment with social media, very little is truly edgy because we get bombarded with things daily. So what The Simpsons, even what South Park used to bring, is kind of like they're not on the cutting edge anymore. They're sort of just part of everything and almost on the back end. So I don't have any issues with The Simpsons. I love The Simpsons. And I certainly don't think they're edgy to the point of being a hindrance to Disney as a company or, their image. my issue is, again, what I said, that I don't feel that Disney as a company has handled all the IPs that they've acquired over the last 10, 15 years. I don't think they've done a good job. And even the ones that they've had forever, even ones that we've grown up with, have fallen by the wayside. I think they're always trying to grab at something to see if they can make something of it, throw something at it and see if it'll stick. But I don't think they've been really successful. I don't like what they did with Star Wars in the parks. To me, it's at best like mid. It's mid. I think a lot more could have been done. When I see
the Star Wars choice is confusing.
I don't think it fits in the way that it could have. I mean, I'm not saying it deserved its own date, but certainly more could have been done in Hollywood studios for it. And I just think they screwed the pooch on that one. I don't like it. It feels like it was jammed in there. And I mean, I haven't been to Disneyland, so I don't know how it compares the one over there to the one over here, but I think it's more of the same. And when I see things that I don't feel belong where they've been put in, I mean, I don't even like the fact that there's a Frozen ride in Norway. Okay. It's just, I can tell that they're trying to take things and put them in places, but it just seems like grabs to me. It doesn't seem like it flows the way that Magic Kingdom has flowed. And that's part of having a park where you, especially Hollywood Studios, where you kind of feel like, okay, well, something comes along, we'll just stick it in Hollywood Studios, or something comes along and we'll stick it in Animal Kingdom because there's land and there's space and nobody cares anyways because the parks don't make any sense over there. You know, you don't even know where you're walking to half the time. I just don't want them to spend more money contemplating doing an attraction for The Simpsons when their relevance today is more nostalgic, I think, for people, you know, like maybe for millennials and Gen Xers. I mean, my kids have never watched The Simpsons, and they're Gen Z. Like, they just watch when my husband and I have it on. I don't know what the relevance would be in today's day and age.
You could almost argue that the Ice Age characters would be more relevant.
Probably because they watched it as kids. I mean, I don't think anybody like younger than mid-20s really watched The Simpsons or watches them. Or
but there's a funny thing that goes on at the top. And if you've ever the book Keys to the Kingdom, I highly recommend. The book Keys to the Kingdom, I'm not saying it because it's on my Amazon store, but if you want to know what I'm talking about, it is. And I'm not. That's a good way to find it. And it's out of print, so I don't even know if you'll be able to get a copy. But in that book, it is the story of Michael Eisner and Frank Wells taking over the Walt Disney Company. There's some fantastic insight into the way that these CEOs at the top look at IP. And I don't just mean in the way on how you're going to monetize it, but in the way of ownership. In other words, you could inherit a movie as an executive from a previous CEO. You could inherit a movie from their slate under their tenure, but it doesn't come out till you take over, you know, and now you have a hit on your hands, but now you resent it because it wasn't your property. It was developed by the guy you took the job from. So right. You have to remember sometimes that some of these characters get love or don't get love because of who's in charge. And I stopped thinking about that a while ago, and it wasn't until I did that interview with Josh where he kind of reminded me that. And if you look at Disney as a whole right now, they really have leaned on Bob Iger's era of characters and really thrown out the bulk of anything before it. You know, and it's just interesting to me how that comes into play, and I don't think it should. I think when it comes down to it, and I'm really speaking to your comment about abandoning the characters they have before tapping new property, even if it's old property. But I think some of the mismanagement is purposeful. You know, and when you look at the Muppets, I think something like Bob Iger's lack of interest in the Muppets literally stems from that was an Eisner acquisition. I don't want to touch it. And I don't think it goes any deeper than that.
It's almost like you want to erase any stamps that were left in the parks from your predecessors.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why be hell bent on that, because so much could have been done with the Muppets as an IP, not just in Hollywood studios.
Correct.
Okay. And it just seems like for the last 20 years, they've completely abandoned it. They haven't done anything that could have been done. And now they're like, okay, let's take Aerosmith off of the Rock and Roller Coaster and stick them on to just as an appeasement. And to me, they're getting the same treatment that Tiana got with Splash Mountain.
Well, but again, you hit the nail on the head before. They're just slapping things wherever, right? So if you look at everything like you have a giant idea board and every idea is on a magnet, and then you're like, well, we could put it over here, or we could put it over here, smack it down. You know what I mean? It's literally, that's how they seem to be planning the parks now. It's like everything is just an option.
I mean, I will say about Cosmic Rewind. Okay, I haven't been to the park since that ride opened, so I haven't ridden it. I would not have put that ride in Epcot if I were in Imagineering or wherever I had to be. It would not have been my first. But I truly believe that could have been someplace else.
Right, but then they're not solving a
Studios.
problem. They had a huge problem to solve in Epcot, and that ride solved the problem for them. So then they reverse engineered it thematically to try to make it fit, which it does not fit, but it's a fantastic ride.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like you have rides and attractions and ideas that are great. I just feel that what they're doing with them and where they're placing them, that whole area of Epcot, when you think back to what it used to be when it first opened, it really was educational, or, I mean, I think it spoke more to the original idea of what Epcot was meant to be, how it was meant to serve the public.
Oh, yeah.
And
I could get lost. I mean, as a kid, all the interactive stuff.
I used to spend, I think more, I was more, now I'm a person that likes to spend probably more time in World Showcase, just because, I mean, I'm older and I like to, it speaks to me in a different way than when I was 12 or 13 years old. But when I was that age, I just wanted to be at the front of the park all the time. And in that area, Body Wars, Universe of Energy, all of those attractions, it's just, you could spend hours and hours there. None of that exists anymore. So I'm not trying to downplay Cosmic Rewind's importance. It's a great ride in and of itself, whether it's a Disney Universe, it doesn't matter. It's a great ride. I can tell even not having ridden it. And I just wish that they would have done something else with it. And this, you know, we could beat this horse dead completely, but this is just what Disney's doing. Like, they took the Tower of Terror in Disneyland and they made it into a Guardians of the Galaxy ride.
Yeah, and I remember hearing the story on that, and they made it sound like that they were trying to find something in the park to retheme. Like, the way I heard it was, and I don't know if it was presented in a documentary or something, but they were looking for something in California Adventure to retheme. Now, I don't know how true that is, but if that is what they were looking to do, and it was less about which ride, then it means they were just looking to be able to make an announcement to drive people into the park. In other words, we haven't done anything here for a while. Let's do something so that, you know, and I don't know if that was, then it was, oh, well, we have Guardians coming up, let's do Guardians, or if it was, we need to put Guardians in the park. So I don't know where the chicken and the egg thing played out, but in my opinion, and I think that they actually did that ride way better than I anticipated. I mean, the way that they capture the up and down movement in a fun, exciting way and not a scary, thrilling way, they really did do that well. But I'm of the opinion, and people are going to think this is a crazy statement, I'm of the opinion that Bugs Land, which once sat right behind Tower, was far superior to Avengers Campus. Thank you. And that was little flat rides for little kids. And I maintain that it was far superior to Avengers Campus. Both in theming, both in function.
I haven't been there, but I'm going to take your word for it.
Well, it was an area. First of all, I say it was a little area, but they crammed Avengers Campus in there. But it was a tiny little area. And it was all these little tiny kiddie rides that you would see them at Six Flags or anywhere else. Okay. They were all themed to Bug's Life. And the entire area, you felt like you were in the forest. You were like it was very green and lush, and it was like enclosed. And it was just this little area that existed as a go-between. There's the restroom building off to the side, but it was just a place for families to take the little ones, and there was like 4 or 5 little rides in an area, but I think it served a better purpose. Now, maybe the data shows a different story, but I think it was a far better themed little land than anything they got cooking at Avengers Campus. I think Avengers Campus is sterile. And when you read up that they said that Avengers Campus was meant to be smooth, concrete facades so they could easily retheme it in a few years, that tells you all you need to know.
It's lazy. I'm sorry. And I hate to speak about them this way, but it just is. I would speak about any other company doing things in this manner. It's just lazy.
Well, that's my point that I said earlier.
These things are lazy.
Look, I know you said your favorite thing to talk about is Disney, but like my favorite thing to talk about are any issues of importance, and particularly I like to talk about things where there's disagreement. I don't generally find much interest in talking about like-minded stuff unless, to use a phrase that I was discussing with Kenzie the other day, the yes and. In other words, if I'm sitting here talking to you about technology and we're geeking out and we're sharing stories and it's additive, that's one thing. Okay? But when we're talking about like just, griping and complaining, for me, it's not griping and complaining. If there's an issue, whether it's Disney or just something going on in the world, if there's an issue that I think could actually be discussed and you can actually arrive at like walking away with something, even if it's just a new thought, right? I don't want to have a conversation with someone where everything is like, you're just telling me that everything I'm saying is correct. Like, I like the idea of productive conversation. So yeah, whether it's Disney or the United States government or Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks. Like, I love the idea of just speaking about holding people accountable. And maybe we're just having a conversation and we're not actually putting any action out there, but the conversation's what's going to get you to the action. So I just love the idea of having conversation where there's a little friction. And it doesn't mean we're arguing, but like, I don't have to agree with everything you say, and I might learn something if you don't agree with everything I say. People need to get out of their bubbles. So for me, just in this world we're living in, where now it's like, oh, well, all you do is talk negative on the parks. You're the Disney Lives guy. Well, I'm not going to love everything anybody does in this world. And just because, I enjoy something doesn't mean I'm not going to be critical of them. Thank you.
Well,
that's my way of going end transmission.
I think that you can love something and recognize what's wrong with the thing you love. Both things can exist at the same time.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't mean that I don't love Disney any less, but I've been around long enough, thank God, I've lived long enough to see the evolution of at least the Florida park from a very early time to what it is right now. And every time that I complain about something, and I'll call it a complaint because it is, and someone says, "Oh, you're just being negative," or because I have a cousin that loves Disney like ad nauseum. I mean, I love Disney, but not to the point that I think everything is rainbows and unicorns. When I find fault, when I find something that I think can be improved upon, I'm more than happy to point it out. And again, we're consumers of that product that they're putting out. So I feel I have at least the right to point something out when I'm spending money on it. But whatever. Aside from that, when I point something out and I'm either called negative for it, being negative, okay, or that I'm against progress, just something doesn't have to evolve to the point of being beyond recognizable.
Well, listen, you got yelled at in the Discord once. You got yelled at in the Discord once for having an opinion. And I remember looking at that and going, oh. I go like, what is wrong with some people? Like, first of all, when you act that way, and I'm not talking to you, you know that, but when somebody acts that way, you're acting like a child, number one. And then number two, when you flex the whataboutisms, you lose me completely. And especially when we're talking about a theme park. Now, the idea that you're critical of something means you care. Okay, if you didn't care, you would be indifferent. So if you have a passionate opinion about something, it's probably coming from the heart. And I think for some people who just want to, I don't know if it's a desire to be adversarial or if it's an ego thing where they feel the desire to explain something and they feel like they can educate somebody on something when they don't even have the education themselves. I don't know. But for me, I adore the Walt Disney Company, but my love and admiration and adoration extends back to the founder. And as a former cast member, okay, even albeit for a little bit of time, all right, I had insight into what works and what doesn't work at a certain level. I've recorded some interviews with cast members, which I have not even released yet. I mean, I'm sitting on these things because I want them to be perfect. I'm editing them, But there is a sentiment within the company that things have changed. And it's not just from the front-facing consumer perspective, but it's from backstage. And there's strong opinions from a lot of people that I speak to about how decisions being made backstage affects the way that cast members are treating guests on stage. So, some people just want to tear other people down. And I think if you really want to be productive, I don't want to always be, I don't always want to be negative towards Disney, but I think in a format like this, you're generally going to spend your time critiquing and trying to be constructive than sitting here, like I said a moment ago, and just going, yeah, oh, I love everything. Pat me on the back. I love everything. You love everything. I love everything. Who's listening to that? That's not.
I'm glad that you brought that up.
Because the guy's a moron. But go on.
But what I was saying, when you're told you're negative, everything. It's not about negativity. It's about saying, listen, you have a company that has an established legacy, probably unrivaled. Truly, if we look at it, okay, because I don't even consider Universal a rival in that respect. Okay, built brick by brick, and it is something that generations are linked because of that love. You could have a parent that took you to the park, and now you take your kids to the park, and you start seeing grandkids going to the park. And there has to be some, I'm not saying forever, but there has to be some thread of commonality that unites all those generations together. That's why people get heated and passionate about saying, well, I hope there's at least one ride or one attraction left in a park. Then I can look at my grandchild and say, I used to ride this one, just that kind of thing. And then when you express that opinion in the hopes that things can change, in the hopes that characters and IPs don't get shortchanged, that they're done the right way, in the hopes that someone like Tiana, who deserves a ride of her own, doesn't get a cheap refee. When you see the way the Tokyo parks are in comparison to the Florida parks, and you realize that you feel like the Florida parks are phoning it in because they can get away with it. And then you're told, well, the facts don't speak to that. The facts are the parks are always full and the movies are doing great. And I'm like, well, that's great. I'm not.
Yeah, but data is something.
That
Data is something that lazy, non-creative people lean on to make decisions safely. Thank you. So,
like, if you're hitting me, if that's your argument against me, I feel like, okay, if all you're saying is that the numbers speak to successful movies and crowded theme parks, and that's all you have to hit me with, then I feel like, okay, then you should probably work for the company right now, because that's the way the company is operating.
Well, first of all,
going on that. I'm like,
said individual hasn't even been into the company as a cognizant human ever. So that's a different story. Hold that thought. This is breaking news. Breaking news. Because I see the comments over here. I did not have a fight with Dunkin' Donuts. I'm drinking Starbucks this morning, mainly out of convenience, because it was a little chilly and I wanted a warm cup of coffee. And I knew with the limited time I had left when I decided I wanted that cup of coffee, because I was going to brew coffee at home, I was like, I'm just going to go to the Starbucks drive-thru because it'll be a little bit quicker than parking my car and running in the Dunkin' and running back out. So I just wanted to interrupt this very important dialogue to let you know that my heart still lay with Dunkin'. Thank you, Ronnie. Because we're working on that Dunkin' sponsorship, so I don't want to. Yeah, and by the way, the Dunkin' people are probably worried about me right now. I'll probably have to check in later and let them know everything's okay. And while I'm there, maybe get a French cruller. Anyway, back to the show. So the thing is, Walt set out to build a park that captured the American dream both yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And if we completely wipe out yesterday, then we're wiping out the mission statement. So when people want to make that false argument about moving forward and this, that, and the other and blah, 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 you can't abandon yesterday. It was part of the core principles. The entire idea of Main Street, okay, is to take you back to a time that no longer exists. You know, we're not supposed to completely turn our back on history. In fact, you know, if we erase our history completely, then we're doomed to repeat it. Not just the good things, but the bad things too. So for those that think there's no value in things, in a little history, even when it comes to entertainment, you would be misguided. I should not say what I want to say next, but should I say it anyway?
Sure, why not?
Anyway, the guy we're talking about is a Canadian, and I guess we're going to own that country shortly, so it should be fine. I don't feel that way. It was just a joke.
Well, I stepped away from that conversation mostly because I didn't feel it was a conversation.
Can you imagine saying that we're going to take over Canada and Greenland? Like, can we get rid of New Jersey first before we start taking on other states? No, I'm serious. No, like, I get rid of New Jersey. I mean, there's a couple states I get rid of. I'd probably get rid of Arizona. Arizona's boring. It's very flat and dry. Maybe get rid of Washington State. Seattle's kind of run down. Get rid of that place. Like, can we get rid of some states before we bring in new states? Thank you. I'm joking. I'm going to get in trouble for that comment. I'm going to get in trouble for that comment.
That's all I had. That's all I had to say.
Yeah. Faults on New Jersey.
I'm tired of being. I'm tired of feeling like you can't love something.
First of all, I can't handle Canada's temperatures. Thank you. Sorry, Danny. Hold on. I'm a Pennsylvania boy. This is why I don't like having comments on. I'm distracted. I'm a Pennsylvania boy. I can handle Canada's temperatures. Thank you. I can't handle them currently because in Florida it turns me into a little you know what. But give me just a couple hours back up north, I'll be fine. I know down here, forget about it. Like you like it's like 58 degrees out here, and I'm like, where are my hand warmers? I mean, I'm not really like that, but I grew up in PA. Okay, I could be out in the snow in a t-shirt, but not currently. I've lost my way. I am not going to say that I haven't. I apologize for the interruption. Blame the comments.
Yeah, I can't see the comments, but I'm sure they're good.
Not really. Anyway, that's all you had?
That's all. I mean, I don't want to see The Simpsons just because, I mean, I don't think they're relevant, but I also don't think that they have a place in the park, and they're not going to achieve, Disney's not going to achieve what I think currently Universal has. I mean, I don't want to talk so much about Universal, but what they've done with Harry Potter, and I think I probably just mentioned something a little while ago in the chat on TikTok, where I've just seen the behind the scenes of that new attraction at Epic Universe. That's the Harry Potter attraction. Mm-hmm. The level of detail is astounding. I mean, it looks like you walked onto a set of the movie.
Well, so this is,
and then when I think about all the re-scenes that I've seen and how they literally are the laziest things that I've ever seen, it barely looks like a 10th grader might have gone in there with some acrylic paint and done something. But to me,
this is what I don't understand.
The ability to be so much better than that.
It's a choice. So maybe I do understand it. I say I don't understand it inherently, but maybe I do. If they have the ability, right? Because there's only so many people in the hiring pool that are building these things, right? So whether it's the Imagineers who are working on the projects in Tokyo, and you talked about the Frozen ride, and anybody who sees the Frozen ride in Tokyo and then goes to the one in Epcot. The one in Epcot looks like something that somebody built in their garage, okay? And then the one in Tokyo is like, oh my God, this is a Disney ride. So when you look at that and you go, okay, you know you're capable. In other words, the talent's out there. So either you're letting the talent go to Universal to do those things and then you're left with less talent, or you're just saying, hey, we don't want to do these things anymore, and the talent's fleeing because your projects are uninspired. So I don't know which way it's cutting, but they're capable. And like you brought up Frozen, you brought up Tiana. I mean, these become sort of like, it's almost like if you keep using Tiana's Bayou Adventure, it almost ruins the point, because now it just looks like, you have a different opinion, and people are like, well, you're just picking that ride because of blah, 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 blah. But if you look at any of these re-themes, forget re-themes, look at Galaxy's Edge, Danny. Galaxy's Edge was the direct answer to Universal building Harry Potter. And for some reason, Disney decided to build something that looked like Star Wars, but wasn't actually from Star Wars. And you're like, why? Like, what was I don't understand it. Like, it's like these conscious bad decisions. These aren't accidents. They know better. So they're like, let's build. And I think part of it goes back to the Bob Iger of it all, where it's like, let's build something that we can kind of use for the forward-facing brand, not go back to the old stuff. And you're like, but the old stuff is why you bought Star Wars. So maybe you should have just built Mos Eisley so people could go to the actual cantina and not just give us some second-rate cantina that looks like some sort of setup that's being sold at Costco for people to put in their basement. Because that's all it is. There's nothing going on. And like you why did you do that? You could have just they say in the documentary, in the Imagineering documentary, they did it to play it safe so that they weren't locked into anything. But sometimes I think not being committed to something is weakness, not flexibility.
But that's the whole point. If you're going to purchase an IP and spend that the time and money to acquire it, and then you're not going to lean heavily into it, I mean, the fan base is there. And it's one of the biggest fan bases of all time. Trust me, the fan base would have appreciated having something that resembled something that they were huge fans of and grew up with, You could have had something from the prequel movies. You could have had a covered area that resembles Coruscant. So many things could have been done, but it's such a small area, and it's just, again, so mid-level that I'm like, I'm okay if I'm there, and I'm okay if I walk right through it. It's not a big deal to me. But when you go to Harry Potter, you walk through Diagon Alley, it looks like Diagon Alley.
Well, that's the misfire is from the, and again, conscious misfire. But that was the conscious miscalculation, was to not make it something from the movies. What strikes me as interesting, and this is a current thing. Go walk in to the queue for Star Tours, and go look up at the are they AT-ATs or ATSTs, or they have both there? I don't even remember. I don't know which one they have, ATSTs or AT-ATs. I think they have ATSTs. But now I'm being like super Star Wars geek because the AT-ATs are inside of Rise of Resistance. But all that to say, like, that queue to Star Tours is more immersive in many ways than anything they cooked up in Galaxy's Edge. Yeah, the rock work is fantastic detail. The Millennium Falcon looks super cool. But like you said, once you've done that, you just walk through it, and you like it's just like a big open air theme, but there's nothing to do. You know, when I go into the queue and I'm like, oh my God, I'm underneath the legs of an AT-AT, underneath the legs of an ATST, you know?
Oh, 1,000%. Star Tours has a much better, like the feeling that it's evoked, to me is different. To me, walking through Galaxy's Edge, there's a particular point where I feel like I'm just there for photo ops. Like,
right.
Okay,
well, a lot of people go there.
In front of this and
yeah, it's a big Instagram area, especially outside the Falcon.
Exactly, and then it gets to the point where I'm like, okay, I just literally just want to walk through, and I'd rather spend time in Toy Story, like in that area, because at least I feel they tried a little harder to make it like you would be in Andy's world. I don't know.
That's so funny because I feel the opposite.
And again,
I actually feel like Toy Story is, and again, now people are going to say we're being negative for the sake of being negative, but it's either have a conversation or don't, right? So I'm of the mindset that Toy Story feels like an accelerated version of Dino Land. It's a giant parking lot, and they drop some stock rides in there, fine. But I don't feel like it's immersive. I don't feel like I'm in Andy's backyard. At least in Galaxy's Edge, despite the fact that it's not an actual destination, I still oddly feel like I'm in Star Wars. My whole gripe there is you just got so close and then you stopped.
It's also too small. It just seems like it's shoehorned in there.
So
That's
I have
just
this.
my opinion.
I'm weirdly obsessed with
it deserves a lot more ground.
Forgive me. I hate this delay. I'm weirdly obsessed with the parking garage behind Slinky Dog. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
There's a parking garage right behind Slinky Dog.
I mean, you are right. I know.
But
I do get your point.
But you can only see it at the top of the ride.
Well, I think we've already discussed, even when we used to be on the chats when you were streaming, that Disney has kind of lost its way on the immersive feeling. It used to be that you could be on anything and you wouldn't see anything that you weren't supposed to see.
Which is the thing that Walt was so like. In other words, you. That's why I keep going back to the founders' principles. You know, the differentiating factors of a Disney park were supposed to be the cleanliness, was supposed to be the thematic integrity, was supposed to be the execution, was supposed to be the sight lines, you know, the fact that you felt like you were immersed and there was a berm so you couldn't see out. One of the big failures of California Adventure in its opening days was you could see right out into Anaheim. Now, the convention center is literally right behind it, but in Walt Disney fashion, not the company, the man, you would never be able to see where you were. And I think what happened over time is the very things that Walt, you know, championed when people told him the consumer doesn't care, the guest doesn't care. And he said, they might not care because they don't know. But if I present it to them this way, they will care. I think now the company has gone back on those principles, and it's much more of the mindset that, A, the data shows they don't really care. So if the data shows this and it's not really going to have any major implications, then we can cut corners here because the data shows otherwise. As opposed to saying, hey, why don't we keep our spot as a market leader by continuing to dare to be different? And it's the desire to dare to be different that made Walt Disney, and not P.T. Barnum.
I don't disagree with you in any of that.
Not to knock P.T. Barnum, but you get my point.
Corners.
Half the audience. Who's P.T.
I
Barnum?
don't think anything's going to change.
You don't think I'm I know what you really said, but I'm going to pretend like I heard this. You don't think that that's going to affect P.T. Barnum's legacy?
Probably.
Listen, you got to that guy was an innovator. I'm making a joke now about P.T. Barnum, but Barnum and Bailey, I mean, you go back, I mean, these were big deals back in the day. P.T. Barnum was no joke. P.T. Barnum was the Walt Disney of his day.
Oh, yes. Obviously, he was working with different technology or lack of it, but, he made something out of nothing, and Walt did the same thing. The problem is now that we have so much technology, and there's literally a change every day, that the companies now can just say, you know what, we can cut corners here, we can save money here, because we'll hit them with something that it's like the draw for the moment, and, they're not going to know the difference.
No, that's it.
Or the vast majority of people don't discuss Disney like we do.
No,
like,
but
they
if
don't
you're
care.
gonna,
They just go, and whatever's there is there, and that's it.
I'm sure there are people out there that'll spend 4 hours talking about their new ears. I've always been more into the business of the business, not just the business of like, oh my God, it's Disney, I love them. But that's why people always ask me when I'm running around the parks, does like doing this every day lose the magic? Did working for the parks lose the magic? And it's always been the opposite. I'm one of these people that's fascinated by how things operate. Like literally, like, I was talking about Dunkin' Donuts earlier. I'm literally like spend so much time when I'm standing there thinking about like how the guy that distributes the donuts in the morning, how early he must get up, and where's the distribution center, and how many stops are in his route, and where does he drop the donuts off in the morning, and then does somebody take the donuts out and put them in the like I think about these things. You know what I mean? And so it's not just Disney. Like my brain is like, how does this work? How does that work? Because there's so many things that go on that we don't appreciate. But this is going to sound like a random thought, but shout out to the truck drivers. Shout out to the truck drivers, because unless you've driven across this country in the middle of the night, I mean, there's nothing scarier than making your descent into Florida with a bunch of truckers around you. I mean, Danny, when I moved from LA to Florida, I drove across country in 4 days. I only stopped for quick naps. I did not get hotel rooms. Okay? And I drove a 24-foot box truck, which is like driving a minivan next to these guys. But these truckers, I mean, we don't even appreciate how these truckers keep our lives running in the middle of the night. I'm fascinated by that. One of the reasons working in the middle of the night at the park was so fascinating.
I've always been. I mean, everything would come to a halt. Well, I think we already know that, but I've always been. I used to take a lot of road trips as a kid, and we were always constantly on the road with, big semis all over the place. And I'm like, these people are the backbone of this country, keeping everything running.
Yeah.
Getting us the things that we need.
Yeah.
I often think about the cast members at the park. Like, I'll just see somebody, like, The things that give me joy at the parks aren't necessarily the attractions or the shows or anything. There's like moments, you know what I'm talking about. You could be sitting in front of spacious earth for like 20 minutes and taking the whole environment in. And that is something that you'll remember more than the 20th time that you rode Journey into Imagination or whatever it could be. I'll see like cast members just, because I'm sitting down on a bench and I'm just observing, and I can see like this is their job, this is what they're doing hour after hour. And you can tell when somebody is truly enjoying what they're doing and when they're not. And I used to see more of that enjoyment on a cast member's face 15, 20, 30 years ago than I do now.
Yeah, I got to get this interview out that I did. There's so much insight to why that is, because the management behind the scenes and the way these people are being forced to operate, I mean, they're miserable.
Yeah.
Now imagine this. When it's
not a lessening of the service.
No. It's not a lessening of the service, but it's
in their face.
Disney is basically treating college kids and retirees like indentured servants. I'm just going to say it. So when I've told this story before, I'm going to tell it again. When I first moved here, I did not have a car. So I would Uber to the park every day. So one night, this guy picks me up from like the Swan, and he drives me the 15 minutes home. And I wasn't a cast member at this point. So I was still kind of circling the idea of being a cast member. Lo and behold, I find out he's a cast member, and he's doing Lyft or Uber, whatever, I think it was Lyft, to make extra money. Okay, well, cast members, maybe aren't making the most money in the world, so he's trying to make some side income. Well, then I found out he's not just a cast member, he's a manager. He's a manager of concessions in the Magic Kingdom, and he's running Uber at night. And he says to me, if you ever see me in the park, because he said, come say hi, whatever, but don't tell anybody I was your Uber driver. Nobody knows that I do this on the side.
Oh, my God.
So that's a manager of concessions in the Magic Kingdom isn't making enough money as the manager? That's absurd.
Then you can only imagine. Then you can only imagine what everybody else has to deal with.
Yeah. That's unacceptable, And it just, you look at that and you go, okay, for all the money you're charging, there's no excuse. There's no excuse. And I understand like with the college kids what they're doing, but it's the ultimate scam. I mean, they take advantage of these college kids, and these college kids come in with all the energy in the world. When we go to Fantasmic on the live and you hear all the yelling and screaming, that's always college kids. It's always usually a row of, sometimes it's the guests, but there's usually that row of college kids. They're brand new, tons of energy. Check them on the way out. There's none of that.
Yeah.
Because they work them to the bone. They have no respect for their time. Okay, and they take every dollar back from them and then some.
No, it is a scam. To me, it just seems like a classic scam of like this loop that you get stuck in, where you're there and they're using your enthusiasm for just being there and loving Disney, and then you end up working for them, but it's almost like all your money goes back to them. So what exactly did you get out of the experience?
This comment here says, my wife was in
I would never encourage my kids to do it.
No, my wife was in the college program. She came out with $12,000 in credit card debt. That's wild. Yeah, there was a lawsuit years ago. Somebody can look it up, between Coca-Cola, I believe, and Disney, because Coca-Cola, as part of a sponsorship agreement, built housing for college kids. Now, I'm not going to get this 100% right, but I believe that then Coke sued Disney because Disney was charging the college kids to stay there and they weren't supposed to be, maybe. So there was something unscrupulous going on. But it's one of these things, and I've said this from the beginning of my days in the parks, and yes, we'll get back to the parks, relax. Not you, them. But you too. I'm kidding, you know that. So It's one of those things where they're like, where they're running the entire park operation off of college kids and senior citizens. And what does that mean? That means that you have a decent amount of turnover, right? So you're always bringing in new college kids, right? And maybe a few of them are going to stick around and work their way up the ladder. But generally, you're running the operation with temps. So it's really incumbent on management to make sure that everything is up to snuff. It's incumbent upon management to be out there walking the parks and making sure that everything is operating at the level of quality that the guests expect. If you're not paying your managers the proper wage, that your managers have to be Ubering to make a living, then how can you expect your managers to be able to do their job effectively? It's got to be exhausting to go from managing concessions in the Magic Kingdom in the dead of summer to Ubering at night. By the time you get to work in the morning, somebody gives you a hard time. You probably tell them, do whatever you want. Like, there's just a human quality to that. So the entire operation is leveraging senior citizens and college kids. So that's a lot of temporary hires, theoretically. So it's incumbent upon your steady hires and your managers to really run the park, okay? Because during that turnover process, you're the only stability. And it doesn't seem to me like you're paying them enough to do the job. And from everything I hear from other leaders within the company, that my point is only being reinforced. I only hear that time and time again. And where you're not paying us, you were giving us perks. And where you were once giving us perks, you're no longer giving us perks. So if we're not getting it in pay and we're not getting it in perks, then where are we getting it? And to your earlier point, Disney has always traded on the magic. Whether it's doing a deal or whether it's hiring, Disney has always traded on access to the magic, a la free passes and things of that nature. You know, so when you take those pieces away, what incentive is left for the average cast member? And if it's not the paycheck because they're underpaid and they got to work a second job, okay, and it's not the perks because you're not giving them the perks to enjoy the benefits of their labor, then what is the offering? Nothing. You're just taking advantage. They're not the only company that does this kind of thing, but they're right in front of my face. All right, Danny, I'm going to let you go, and we're going to move on.
There's nothing in it for them.
What's that?
I'm saying there's nothing in it for them. There's no retention. And if there's no retention, then what is the point of the program?
Yeah, I got to finish this interview. I spoke to a cast member who's still there. So I changed the voice of the cast member, and I just want to go through and edit it and present it in a good way. And I recorded it weeks ago, but I'm just, I want to take my time with it. I don't want to just rush it out. But I think you'll find it very insightful. And there'll be a few of these interviews. So I'm taking my time. I've talked about it before, but a lot of these points we're talking about, you're going to get right from the horse's mouth. And I don't think the mouse is going to be too happy with me when I start releasing anonymous cast member interviews talking about the mismanagement behind the scenes. But guess what? That won't stop me. Danny, thank you so much for everything. Not just this. Thank you for your support, like your unwavering support. I appreciate you. You have been a blessing, and I wish you a happy new year, and please avoid any Uber at all costs.
Absolutely. All right, Royce.
I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
I mean, if you haven't heard that story, it's not my story to recap, but oy vey is mir. 253-263-1540, 253-263-1540. This is totally random, but okay. So, I've been building this setup. And there's been some customer service phone calls. I got a glass computer case, and it shattered. I had to call. And then there was a Best Buy price matching. I had to call. And I don't know if I'm the only one that does this, but have you ever picked up the phone to call customer service And the person that picks up the other end of the phone, it doesn't matter what they say. Like, you just hear one word out, one sentence out of their mouth, and you're like, you're not going to be helpful. And then you click. I did that. I literally was in the middle of trying to deal with something. I called Best Buy customer service. And on the other end, I got, "Hi, welcome to Best Buy customer service. How can I help you?" I was like, "No, you're not going to Hollywood." Click. And I hung up. And I waited 10 minutes, and I called back again. And I was like, "Nope, not going to do it." I was like, because, and I know, maybe that's a horrible thing to do, but I'm like, there's just no way, the way you just answered the phone, that you are going to have the desire or the will to actually help me accomplish what I need to get done right now. Like, I need somebody like who answers the customer service call clear. You know, I don't need you to be enthusiastic, but at least be awake. "Hi, welcome to Best Buy customer service. My name's Royce. How can I help you today?" Hi. Now, the flip side of that is, I don't need to know everything about you. I finally call back. And don't be careful what you wish for, because I finally call back Best Buy customer service, and I get through, and within 10 seconds of talking to this guy, we go from Happy New Year to he got engaged to he's really nervous about his wedding vows, and he doesn't know what he's going to say. And I'm like, I'm just trying to price match something. Like, how do I now know about this guy's wedding vows? I haven't even been on the phone for a half a minute. Like, how do I know more about this guy than my potential price match? And we're not even a minute into the call. I mean, that's always wild to me. I'm like, he did not practice his wedding vows on me. I wasn't in the mood. I should have given him I should have been like, "Sir, did you price match your wedding?" That's what I should have. "Did you price match the venue?" That's what I should have said. I mean, nice guy, but I don't need, it's a customer service call. We're not having a cup of coffee together. We're not hanging out. I don't need to know. Congratulations to you. That sounds like a problem for you and ChatGPT, okay? And by the way, if you have to do your wedding vows using the help of artificial intelligence, maybe you shouldn't be getting married. Now, he didn't say he was going to do that. I'm just rolling with it. 253-263-1540, 253-263-1540. Let me do the ads really quick. I said I was going to do that. This is the perfect time for an ad break. Now, we just had the holidays. But it's never too late to spice up your kitchen, which is why you need to check out Pampered Chef and Colleen Herman. Pampered Chef has all the goodies from spatulas and mandolins to amazing pots and pans and knives to level up your kitchen like never before. Don't miss out on all the small appliances like the deluxe air fryer and coffee maker as well. You're going to want to reach out to Colleen Herman, pamperedchef.com/PWS/Colleen Herman. Colleen Herman is available to you via pamperedchef.com/PWS/Colleen Herman. And if you're on vacation and the unthinkable happens, you can call 305-213-5438, the law office of Nicole M. Kennedy. She will fight for your rights and work tirelessly to get you the compensation you deserve. So for a free consultation, call 305-213-5438 today. And if you have last-minute shipping needs from the parks, or if you're local and you're looking for a good store or a good notary, good UPS store, good notary, or even a P.O. box, the UPS store located at 6526 Old Brick Road is going to help you out. They will not only take care of your last-minute packing from the parks, but they also have copy services, shipping supplies, and so much more. I do my Amazon returns there, by the way. So go check them out, 6526 Old Brick Road, located right behind the Magic Kingdom. And, of course, as always, William.bailey will help you with all of your travel planning. William.bailey's available to help you with any of your travel needs, whether you're taking a Disney cruise, or looking to go to Disney or anywhere else in the world, quite frankly. William.bailey Travel. You can go to Royces.com, fill out the form on my website, Royces.com. That's the travel form up top. Or email William.bailey@academytravel.com, William.bailey@academytravel.com. And sometimes we are so worried about this life and this moment, we forget to plan for the life for those we leave behind. With no estate plan, you could be leaving those you love the most with high taxes, probate fees, an incomplete or divided estate, and legal fights and fees. A will or trust is not just for the Rockefellers anymore. If you live in Florida, contact Russell at RK Law today. Russell at rklawpro.com is his email address. Russell at rklawpro.com to schedule your appointment. Russell's a really good guy. I finally got to meet Russell a few weeks back, and just a really, really good dude. And I am so thankful for his support and his sponsorship. So go check out Russell at rklawpro.com. And those are the sponsors. I got to talk to the sponsors and see who's going to stick with us, but I wanted to do that today. I haven't had time to reach out to them. I've been so busy. I mentioned at the top of the show, I hear Mr. Wonderful's possibly going to buy TikTok. I don't know how true that is. I'm going to try to find out a little bit more today, not just about that, but the state of Live Fest. I don't know what's going on between the LA fires and everything else. If they're even going to hold this event, I'm of the mindset they shouldn't. I really don't think it's appropriate, quite frankly. And I'm not just saying that because I don't feel like going, but they really should postpone the event. I mean, if LA is basically burning, okay, and the air quality is so bad and first responders are spread thin, then I think it's not the appropriate time to be holding a influencer TikTok party / celebration, whatever you want to call it, because it's whatever. I could call it something. It's not appropriate. So just use your imagination. All right. So we'll find out about that. Now I gotta talk a little policy, a little politics. This isn't even politics. I'm an independent, you know this. So I'm going to say this from the larger perspective, because I can't stand when I see like a governor is writing a book when they're in office. And this goes to my larger point that we as a people are always getting the short end of the stick no matter who's in office. But Amazon apparently, and I don't know how true this is, I say that with everything because, you read it on the internet, doesn't mean it's true. But I guess Melania Trump is getting a $40 million deal with Amazon for a documentary with cameos from the president-elect and Barron. And my issue is the same. When Gavin Newsom wrote a book, or it wasn't Gavin Newsom, maybe he did write a book, but Cuomo wrote a book when he was governor, Andrew Cuomo. Like, I don't think it should be legal, and maybe technically it's not, for this kind of, I mean, and I get she's not elected, okay, but clearly this is just funneling money into their pockets, and I don't think, first of all, in the case of Andrew Cuomo, that if you're the governor, you should be writing a book, and obviously he no longer is, but I'm pointing to that like a governor shouldn't have time to write and publish a book or be able to monetize something like a book when you're in office. Your sole focus should be taking care of the people, all right? And there should be no ability to monetize. But this Melania Trump $40 million Amazon deal just reeks of funneling money into the pockets of not just the president-elect, but for influence over the administration. It's obvious. $40 million for a documentary on Amazon. First of all, does Amazon think they're going to make that $40 million back? No. So it tells you everything you need to know. I'm just of the mindset that anybody in office and their family members should not be making money with their power. And unfortunately, all of our leaders are. They're all doing it. Whether it's the insider trading or the lobbyist, it's all there. It's nothing new. I just saw that headline and it jumped out at me. But it drives me crazy when I see these governors publishing books while they're in office. First of all, when you're in office, you have one job, and that is to try to solve problems and to try to support your constituents. Okay? So you're there to support your constituents and to solve problems. You're there to legislate in a way that is to be at the benefit of your constituents. And like I said at the top of the program, I don't care if they're on the right, the left, red, blue, up, down, black, white. I don't care. None of these goobers in Washington give two boops about the working class. All they care is about their free postage, it's the free postage. I was going to say they're free book deals, but I meant the speaking engagements is what I'm trying to say. But they're not free, right? They still have to speak, but all they want is their free postage, their speaking engagement fees, their cable news deals. So when they get out of office, their pockets are lined, right? That's all they want, is all the perks. Show me any of these guys that actually get anything done. Show me. They're talking now, trying to pass one large sweeping bill by using budget reconciliation. Now, part of me goes, there's no way you're going to get that done. Even if you cut it in half, I don't know how you're going to get that done. But then the other part of me goes, why do we constantly allow people to use reconciliation? Like at a certain point, like why do we have, like this is literally political theater that we have this body, this legislative body that literally does nothing for us as people. All they do is continually run their circus, not to bring back P.T. Barnum into this equation, but all they do is run their circus and line their pockets. I can't recall the last time I've seen Congress do anything. And I don't know what's going to come out of this quote-unquote big, beautiful bill, okay? And I wish nothing but success for the country. So that has to come through leadership. But I don't think we have any good leaders, okay? And I'm just tired of pretending like we do. I don't think there's anybody in Congress that cares about the working class people. I really don't. I really don't. It's absolutely appalling to me, okay, that they can constantly keep circumventing the rules and get away with it. And you go, oh, well, that's the way it's always been done. They've always used reconciliation. Okay, but I like it's time to reboot Congress. It's really time to reboot our government as a whole. But this administration coming in will not be it. Mark my words. This chaos that we're about to embark upon is not going to be it. And I'm hoping that we can start talking to people as we go down this rabbit hole that will be the next 4 years of our lives. I'm hoping we can start talking to people both in the media and in Washington about some of this stuff. But I just find it wild. I just find it wild that they'll try to push through some giant bill under reconciliation. And it's like, you don't have a mandate. I know you think you have a mandate, but you don't have a mandate. And I certainly can't look to the Democrats for any sort of relief because the Democrats in many ways are just half of the problem. I felt this way my whole life, but I'm just at the point now where you look at it and going back to what we're doing with this platform, what we're building, that at a certain point you got to actually you got to play the game to change the game. And I think at a certain point here, we as people, we as working class citizens, the way that we're going to actually take over our government is going to be by actually getting off of our butts and running for office. And I think we need to see more people from outside the system taking over the system. And what I would hope is over time, if we got enough actual people, like I don't mean actual people because people are people, but if we got some actual leadership from real working class individuals, then maybe we can actually affect change. As fun as it is to say storming the Bastille is not going to get us anything. But I think we really, as a people, need to start getting more organized at the grassroots level. I think we need to get more ingratiated in our communities, and we need to start propping up people outside of the two-party system to use the two-party system, because you will never get elected outside of the two-party system. It's near impossible. Okay, but I think we need to start using the two-party system to redefine the system by electing people from outside of it. And you got to break through. And the AOCs are not it. I mean, an AOC is a bought and paid for individual. I want to see and here's the real problem. Most folks that would make good leaders don't even want to put their toe in the water. Most folks that would make good leaders don't want to deal with the nonsense. I mean, Congress is a joke. Most people, they don't even want to deal with it. They're like, no, I can create better change from the outside. But when I look at what's been going on in this country between, the violence towards, the United Healthcare violence, the murder of the United Healthcare CEO, or the 2 New Year's attacks, as much as sometimes you just want to sock somebody in the face, that is not a means to an end. Okay? And the adult way to affect change in this world is to have honest conversation and create calls to action and to get out there and to fight for it. And that's a figurative fight. That's not a physical fight. That's a figurative fight. And I just think at a certain point, I mean, I'm sorry. I want nothing but the best for this country, but I think that we're entering a hellfire. And part of the reason that I started this format, this podcast, going live and doing this whole thing and talking to you all, is because there's going to be far more important conversations than Disney to be had at a certain point. I think the president-elect ran on no more wars, and now we're talking about, we'll attack Canada and Greenland if we need to. So I feel like we're entering the height of absurdity, and I don't need you to agree with me, and I don't need to agree with you, but we will continue to use this platform as a means for conversation. I think there's too many places that are essentially just echo chambers that don't really provide an outlet for honest discourse. And I'm not afraid of somebody calling up and telling me that I'm wrong or that you think that this, that, and the other. That's fine. I might learn something from you. But that's what the number is for. 253-263-1540. It just drives me up a wall. It drives me up. We're going to take the Panama Canal. Wild. Makes me think of that whole truck conversation. Look, we've seen it before. What concerns me is the normalization. What concerns me is I think as crazy as things may get, I think it's the acceptance that is the scary part. I'm a born resistor in every sense. And anybody that knows me will tell you that. So whether we're talking Disney, whether we're talking TikTok, whether we're talking the government, whether we're talking a job and a boss, I'm always willing to step up and question authority, and I'm always willing to challenge norms. And maybe that's really the brand as a whole here. And that's what we're going to do. Okay. I find it really, really bizarre. Really, really bizarre that in this age of information, in this age of accessibility, where somebody from their living room can talk to somebody around the world, that we don't have better leaders emerging from the working class. And I think part of that's because the system is designed to only let people in that benefit the system. But with all of this information, I mean, you could literally, if somebody wanted to, you could run a campaign on social media and never raise $1. You want to talk about the ultimate scam is when politicians raise money. Oh, I get an email. Oh my gosh, we didn't meet our goal, but if you could just send $35 more. $35 more. Like, politicians are always asking for more money from people. It is the ultimate scam. In the age of social media, if somebody really wanted to get, if people really wanted to get somebody elected, they could just use social media to do it. In theory, you could run with zero money in the bank and get elected if somebody actually put their energy into it. You really could. And I think that if somebody really wanted to prove that they were working for the people, that they would do that. Somebody needs to run for office, whether it's Congress or Senate, with zero campaign finance. You're going to run the whole thing off of grassroots social media, $0. You want an in-kind contribution? Sure, but I'm not raising, you know what I mean? We're not going to raise $1 from anybody. It drives me wild when I see how much more money does the DNC need? They're burning billions. And how much more money does the RNC need? You're burning all. By the way, you're taking money from working class people, okay, that you're supposed to be helping, and everybody's bootstrapped, and yet you're taking money from them. It's a ruse. It's a ruse. These are the things I like to talk about. 253-263-1540. And then I saw some talking head this morning in a clip on Fox Business, of all places, talking about the Greenland thing. And this is less a comment on that. And I'm like, why does the guy he's talking to look like Larry Kudlow? And I'm like, oh my God, it is Larry Kudlow. Why did they give Larry Kudlow a TV show? How long has Larry Kudlow had another TV show? I mean, first of all, Larry Kudlow, the man, I'm trying to find the right words to say this without being completely offensive, but I mean, Larry Kudlow's liver must be looking for a way to escape that Alcatraz that is his body like nobody's business, okay? Because that Kudlow is constantly on Papa's cough syrup, okay? Always. And I'm like, and Kudlow is on Fox Business? I mean, listen, you think Jim Cramer is bad. Kudlow makes Jim Cramer look like he knows what he's talking about. And Jim Cramer's another mess. Oh boy, the Jim Cramer stories I could tell you. I won't, but I could. These are the people that the average viewer is watching for advice. Larry Kudlow and Jim Cramer. That's frightening to me. Nobody should be taking. I wouldn't trust Larry Kudlow to go get my mail from the mailbox at the end of my driveway. You're on the air. Who's this? Is this Larry Kudlow?
Hey, Royce, it's Melissa. How are you?
Hi, Melissa.
What's going on?
Oh, I'm just complaining about Larry Kudlow.
Well, so I'm calling. I could talk to you about a bunch of different topics, but you started to bring up the politics, and it got my blood boiling a little bit.
Good.
So I thought I'd just share one of my frustrations with you.
Please.
So I remember back we were watching, the DNC, and we were watching it on TV, and one of them, it was probably Kamala or someone else was up there, and they were talking about how if they're elected, we are not going to take your money and we are going to use it the right way and taxes. And I'm just sitting there laughing on the couch with my husband and my family about the actual convention itself and the amount of money that they probably charged people to get those suites and sit in there. And I'm like, this is just ridiculous. Like, all this money you're spending for this, and you're trying to tell people that, I'm not going to pretend like I'm the biggest, political person. I don't know probably half of what I'm talking about, but things like that just really get under my skin.
Well, I think wasted money when you see it. The problem I have with all of that,
exactly.
Those conventions, is look at what that money could do. And in the age of social media, I don't know why we need money to get people elected. You have the reach. If you don't have the reach, maybe there's a reason.
It's absolutely ridiculous. I'm like you. I'm pretty independent, and I try to see things from both sides. I, for some reason, though, only get emails on the Democratic side. I don't get any emails from the right side. But I look at these emails asking for my money all the time, and I'm like, what do you need my money for, actually? We already pay, all this money in taxes every year. What are you going to use it for? And then I'm watching, all these celebrity performers on stage at these conventions and these rallies. And I'm like, okay, well, that's where my money's going to. This celebrity who's already a multimillionaire, just to get her on stage to perform. So I just laugh and roll my eyes at all of it. And I am not going to donate a dime. I mean, I actually do love donating to causes. Like, I'll do Make-A-Wish and, medical things, but nothing related to politics ever. For that very reason I just said.
Well, good for you. My whole thing is, Eminem comes up on stage and he doesn't even perform. Turns out Barack Obama sang more of an Eminem song than Eminem did. So
it's ridiculous. It's hilarious. And it's nothing against the performers. If you're going to pay them, they're going to come.
Well, first of all, Eminem looked like he didn't even want to be there. So you got to question that. But if your policy, if your strategy is to pay celebrities to rally votes, then I think you're out of touch. Because I think it's really easy.
Exactly.
Look, there's a lot of people. I grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Bucks County is a swing county, okay? There's a lot of people that voted for Barack Obama that then turned around and voted for Donald Trump, all right? And the idea of change is really all that people tend to vote on when it comes to that. That's really not much more than a swing and a prayer, you know, at a certain point when we're talking about the difference between those two. Because at the end of the day, you might have half of the country saying I'm voting for this guy and half the country saying I'm voting for that guy. But if it's the swing counties moving it, okay, then you got to ask yourself, what is going to affect their decision? It's not going to be Eminem and Beyonce. It's going to be speaking to their desire for change.
100%. So I love Taylor Swift, her music. My daughter loves Taylor Swift. We're all about that. But I'll tell you, when she publicly endorsed the candidate she was endorsing, I'm looking at myself or you know, other people, and I'm just like, within myself, and I'm like, I don't really care. You know what I mean? Like, it just, none of that matters. Like, just because, like, it just boils me up, or, you know, like, it's just so annoying to me when these celebrities, you know, endorse a candidate as if like their lives are going to be impacted by either side. You know,
I think they should just
set for life.
Keep your mouth shut and do your job. Yeah. I mean, because there used to be a point in our culture where where celebrities didn't speak up on those things, and I'd rather somebody speak up on a cause than speak up on politics, especially when you're like, all right, look, Taylor Swift's a really savvy businesswoman, okay? First of all, she can't dance.
For sure.
She can't dance. Okay? I can't dance, so I can recognize another non-dancer. All right? Focus on your dancing, not your politics. Okay? Like you stay in your lane. Okay? And anybody who is looking towards any celebrity to decide who to vote for is already off on the wrong foot. So that's what gets me.
That's my point.
But the problem I have on the right side is they just lie. They lie more than the left. So then it's like, no wars. And now it's like, well, we might go to war with a canal.
It's very frustrating. And you said it best. I think when people are seeking change, it's pretty much a guarantee the other party's going to win. And it's just going to be a flip-flop back and forth probably until the end of time or until something changes.
But that's the problem, Melissa.
Right.
But we accept that notion.
Whole thing, I mean, I am not a fan of the party system, and I've been saying, my husband and I, we say this forever. Why is there a left and a right? Because like you said, they're lying. Most of them probably don't even believe some of the things they're saying. Correct. And I do think that most people are center. I do. I think at everybody's core, they are center. They do agree with things on the right. They do agree with things on the left. You know, social issues may be more left and other things may be more right. So everyone is kind of center, you know, at the end of the day. And so I can't stand it when people, you know, these politicians come up and they just read the list of everything the right thinks and says it when that's really not what it is. So why can't there be an overhaul, you know, of the party system? It would take a lot for that to happen, but that's where I'm at. Like, I wish there was some sort of overhaul of the party system.
Where are you calling from? What's 312?
So when I got my cell phone after I graduated college, or when I was in Chicago. So this is a Chicago number, but I live in Cleveland. So I'm a Midwesterner, but okay. I'm from Cleveland with a Chicago number.
Okay. So I'm just curious. So, you know, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Growing up, I always thought a third party would be the solution. And now you look at like the third parties, the Green parties and whoever else, and you realize they do more harm than good. See, I used to think a third party was the solution, and now I think a third party is part of the problem. I don't think a third party.
Agree.
I think now it's a full reboot. And I think that's kind of what you're saying. Like, it used to be, in my mind, a third party could come in. But I think having grown up and have a better understanding of the way things work, there's no room for a third party when you have two broken parties.
Exactly. No, I think a third party would be very detrimental. It's almost to me like these are ancient parties, you know, ancient ideals, and we need to just like fix what's already there almost. because, like you said, a third party is going to come in and just pull vote. Like, it's never going to have enough to, actually take over. It's just going to probably make things worse.
No, we just need to overhaul. But do you think that term limits is a solution, or do you think that basically just at this point you just kind of like wipe out Congress and start from zero?
I do think term limits are very important, but yeah, I agree with everything you're saying about when you're getting paid, for stuff. There's a conflict of interest with anything. So an overhaul would be wonderful. It's just the reality of it is it's probably never going to happen.
Right.
I try to be realistic about everything. Yeah, it's just been a frustrating year. Obviously no one wants there to be wars anywhere. It's just everything's frustrating. I don't think necessarily the new administration is going to come in and fix it all. If anything, you're right. It's probably going to get worse. But I don't think what's been going on now is the answer either. So I'm at a loss. Like I said, I'm not the most knowledgeable person with politics. I try to listen and learn when I can. And like I said, I listen to both sides. I called in your show. I think I was a caller on the first day your show even aired. And I told you, I said, I'll listen to both. I am not like hardcore in my beliefs where I can't be swayed to think something else.
I'm the same way. There are parts of me that are conservative and there are parts of me that are liberal. I think like anything in life, like I'm a spiritual person, not a religious person. And I understand people's desire to practice religion. I have no issue with that. But like most things, I try to practice moderation. There are areas where I fail royally. But when it comes to something like, the term politics is such a horrible word, but when it comes to policy, all right, to your point earlier, you can't tell me that irrespective of one's party, that there is anybody out there that doesn't want the same things. We all want health. We all want financial viability. We all want to see our kids grow up in a better world, or if we don't have kids, see the future of our world be better for kids. We want to see our first responders be taken care of. We want to see our veterans being treated far better than they are because they are being completely underserved. And we want to see our education system be improved upon. And we want to make sure that our teachers are being compensated, because it's absurd that teachers should have to come out of pocket for teaching supplies. They're real simple things that we all want, and nobody talks about them on the trail.
It's hilarious. So I was a teacher. I moved to Chicago right after college, was a teacher in the Chicago public school system. It was a very eye-opening experience. And yes, every summer before the school year started, went to, we ordered online back then, but not like we do now. I literally went to like a teacher education store in the city of Chicago and purchased hundreds of dollars worth of supplies on my own money, as a fresh out of college teacher in the Chicago public school system. So that's a whole other, I very much agree with you about all of that. It's ridiculous when,
But imagine you're the Democrat Party. Imagine you're the Democrat Party and you can't even speak to those issues. Do you realize that if whoever was running on their ticket this last election, if they would have just spoke on half of the issues I just spoke about, if they would have just even reminded people that those were issues, that they would have won?
For sure. There was too much hate. There was too much hate and pointing fingers at the other side, and not enough just like, the other side's going to do them, we're going to do us. This is what we need to do. This is what we're going to do. And I knew it was doomed right from the get-go, right when they announced that Biden was stepping down and they just anointed the next candidate. Like, I just knew, I'm like, okay, this is it. Like, it was going to take a lot for that.
I have a huge issue with that, because
it's hypocritical.
Yeah,
it's
but how do you walk out there with a straight face and say we need to save democracy and then usurp democracy?
Well, I said right at that moment, I said, what, is there going to be another primary? Are they going to bring people back to the polls? Are they going to put some new names on the ballot and let the people speak? And someone was like, nope, not happening. They're just going to get together, rally behind her, and it's going to be what it is. And I said, well, that's ridiculous. I said, because could you imagine if that happened on the other side?
Of course. Oh, my God. Of course.
It would have been like, honestly, the protesting, the rioting, I think it would have been next level.
You know, Lenny Bruce.
Lenny
Bruce used to say, and by the way, most people don't even know who Lenny Bruce is. I say that a lot. Most people don't. But it's true. Most people don't a lot of things.
Yeah.
Lenny Bruce.
Including me. Yeah.
Including what?
Including me. I don't know a lot of things either. I like to think I do, but I probably don't.
Including me too. But you talk for 2.5 hours straight. You're gonna have catchphrases, even if you don't want them. So, like Lenny Bruce used to say, and this is going back. I mean, when was Lenny Bruce, in the 30s, the 40s? I mean, he used to say back then that liberals could understand everything, but people that don't understand them. And I'm paraphrasing the joke, but it's so true, and that's where the hypocrisy lies. True. Yeah,
there's such hypocrisy. So that's probably why I am who I am, because I feel like I don't think I'm smarter than everybody else. I just think that I could see that you can't fully invest in one side. And I know you say all the time that you leave CNN on, like in your background. And, when I'm at home, like I do put CNN on and I do like a couple of the personalities, but I've been like, I'll go from CNN and listen to what they're saying about anything, even the wildfires right now in California. Like I will listen to what they say, and then I'll flip to Fox News and I'll listen to what they're saying, and then I'll go to this News Nation and listen to what they're saying, because I think it's so interesting how each media outlet portrays the same story.
Yeah, well,
so I like to hear how they're doing it.
I mean, I don't believe anything I hear in the news anymore. I kind of just use it for a jumping off point to go like. So in other words, I listen to CNN. Okay, CNN is the white noise in my house. Yeah. Okay, and I listen to it on an Amazon device. I'm not watching. I'm just listening to the TV because I like when I love like the idea of policy. Like I shouldn't use the word politics. So I'm like, I didn't study poli-sci, but I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to that stuff. So I like when they cut to like Capitol Hill and you hear a vote going on. Like I'm the kind of guy that would watch C-SPAN. Okay. And growing up, I didn't understand C-SPAN. I'm like, what is this? I'm like, what kind of loser watches this channel? And now I'm like, ooh, a hot cup of coffee and some C-SPAN. Let's go. You know what I mean? Like, because I like...
It's very fascinating.
Well, again, it goes back to liking to see how things work. I like the process, right? So I'm fascinated by that. All right? Course. So I like, but I mean, this morning I'm walking around getting ready for this, and CNN spent 30 seconds listening to the winds in Southern California. And I started yelling at my Amazon device. I was like, real good coverage, guys. Way to go. Good job, Warner Brothers.
Maybe someone needed a bathroom break, so they were just...
I'm like, what are we listening to? The wind? Seconds. Yes, yeah. Listen closely to the sounds of the winds pushing the fires. What? But I do love it. Like, I love hurricane coverage. I love that stuff too. I mean, I'll listen to all of it, and I don't like any of it. Like I said, I'll put on Fox News. I don't like Fox News, but I just think it's funny. I almost put it on to laugh, because I'll laugh at how they're covering something versus how CNN is covering something, and the same story being covered by both is absolutely hilarious. Well, two things I will admit to you. Number one, I think that Kate Baldwin and John Berman, because they used to do a show together years ago in the morning, have the best snark between each other. They're like brother and sister practically. So from a pure entertainment perspective, they say some stuff to each other on the air that I think probably gets by most of the audience. But I'm like, did he just say that? Did she just say that? So I listened to them, and they took them apart years ago and brought them back together. So that's just a pairing of personalities that I enjoy, and there's a level of snark that trickles out onto the air between the two of them that just makes me laugh. I'll say that.
No, that is great. I like both of them. I do.
Number 2.
And I like others. I do.
Number 2, Abby Phillip. Oh, my God, do I have the biggest crush on Abby Phillip. Oh, my God.
He's great.
I love her. And Laura Coates, but more so Abby than Laura. But in many ways, I mean, Laura Coates is phenomenal. Great. Yeah. But oh, my God. Oh, my God, do I love Abby.
They are good. And I like Jake Tapper. I like listening to him.
I used to like Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper, to me, just seems like a whiny nerd that gets shoved in a locker during break, you know?
Yeah, well, he's probably like, one of the more experienced veterans there. So that, you could tell when they're trying to bring in like the fresh new voices. But I don't know. I like what he has to say. I find him I trust, I think, what he has to say. And that's probably ridiculous. I probably shouldn't. But
well, no. I mean, there's a comfort there. I think he's gotten very whiny over the years. I'll tell you who I really like is John King.
Yes, he is good. He is good too.
Yeah. Now, John King and Dana Bash used to be married. Did you know that?
I know. Oh my God. We were cracking up about this the last election cycle because they were on air together a lot. And we were dying, and I was explaining to my son, I think it was my older son is the one that told me that. Because he's like, did you know they were married? I'm like, I had no idea. So we've been cracking up about that for a long time, too.
Could you imagine those conversations at dinner, though?
Yeah, and it's fascinating to me, because they still do work pretty closely together. So, hopefully it's all good and,
Well, I mean,
don't you kind of want to know what goes on when the cameras are off?
Don't you think it's a weird idea that people can't be civil after a breakup?
I think it's definitely possible, but there has to be some level of I was married to you, now I'm not. I think it's great. I think it's great that people can do that, and that's awesome. But it's there's got to be something there.
Yeah, but this is just me hoping that the professionalism is the link there. That, hey, we're two professionals. We've got a family. We've got kids together. There's no reason to not be professional about all of this. I mean, a marriage is a business relationship.
Yeah.
A marriage is not a romantic relationship. A marriage is a business relationship.
I get it. That's so funny.
No, but it's true. I mean, you don't need the piece of paper.
I could never work. Well, I could never work with my husband, ever. I would never go work with him. So he's a physician. Right. And someone always used to say, oh, you can go work in his front office. I'm like, are you kidding me? If I worked in his front office, we would have been divorced a long time ago.
Oh my God, I went to the dermatologist and she was like, make sure that, when you call, that you make sure you get my office, not my husband on the other side of town. And I'm like, oh, you're married to another dermatologist? Do y'all just sit around the dinner table comparing notes about people's skin? I wouldn't want to be.
I'm cracking up. My husband's a dermatologist, so now I'm really cracking up. This is too funny.
Is he near the camera? Because I have this thing right here. Do you see that right there? I'm trying to get that removed.
So he's not. So he is at work, but he would be happy, I'm sure, to give you a free consult anytime you need one.
Can you screenshot? Do you see that right there on TikTok? I'm on the TikTok camera. If you could just screenshot that right there.
I'm not watching anytime, Royce, but I'm not watching. I'm literally on my phone right now, and I'm not even watching what's going on.
I'm not serious.
You can send me a... No, I'm being serious. You're welcome. You can send a direct message. No, just kidding.
I'm just joking.
I crack up. You know that people, well, I know you are, but do you know that people do that all the time?
Oh, I'm sure.
They'll send me stuff all the time. I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus in case I know anyone listening, but I get that a lot, and I just crack up, and I'm like, what do you think I'm going to do with this?
It's like a bad
And then I'll
Seinfeld.
show my husband when he gets home. It's hilarious. And then I'll show my husband when he gets home, and we crack up. We're sometimes he can look at a picture and be like, okay, that's what it is. But like 90% of the time, or maybe even more than that, he's like, I got to see that. Like, I can't just like look at the iPhone picture that someone zoomed in onto their arm, you know, and diagnose. Like, it just doesn't work.
Like, what do you want me to do with this underexposed?
People do that all the time.
What do you want me to do with this underexposed image of your rash? I can't really diagnose that. That's funny.
Oh, it has, but you wouldn't even believe how many people. And people look like close friends, you know, family, obviously, anytime, you know, and he'll be like, stop over anytime. But it cracks me up when like the random person you haven't talked to in like 5 years texts you a picture and they're like, well, yeah, you know, it's like, wow, really? I mean, I would never do that, you know, but I tend to, you know, think of, you know, just that's probably not really the right thing to do, but people do that.
Now, I'm going to use this to jump into a healthcare thing real quick. So if you have to go, feel free to just jump. But I was shocked when I went to the dermatologist and she immediately sent me off with 5 scripts. Now, I don't take any medication, occasionally allergy. And this woman sent me off with 5 scripts and says, I'll see you in a year. I'm like, so you're sending me off with 5 different medications, probably none of which I need, and you're not going to see me for a year? So what's the point of this medication? Are you just, in other words, is she just pushing the medication because the distributors come into her office and grease the wheels and it's her job to push the meds? I'm just a little insight from the wife of a dermatologist.
So it's actually a really interesting thought. So I don't know, obviously, like what kind of practice you went to or anything. So my husband can't stand when like drug reps. Okay, so not that he can't stand them personally. I'm sure a lot of them are very nice, but obviously there is a thing to that. You know, that drug reps come in, try to sell you their drug. You can imagine. So he, you know. That seems like a lot. I will say that you got 5 prescriptions to come back in a year. Obviously, I didn't go to medical school, so I can't like fully test, and I don't know what's going on. But
I didn't go to the pharmacy, so I got you beat.
So my husband's favorite thing to tell a patient is to put Vaseline on everything. That's the number one. So our joke in our house is that whenever there's a problem, he's just going to tell you to put Vaseline on it and be quiet.
That's like a placebo.
And that's free. I know. Well, and to be honest, there is a lot of truth to that. Like a lot of people will be like, well, what do I need? Neosporin or Aquaphor, you know, and it's like, nope, just straight up Vaseline will do the trick better than all of those.
Interesting.
For anyone listening who is interested in that like if you have a, you know, dry skin or whatever, you know, it's usually Vaseline that will fix it 90% of the time.
Now
so look, there are things that you may need. I'm not asking what you went in for.
No, I don't care. I'll tell you.
Eczema,
I mean, no.
Steroid creams, and there are.
I have eczema. Yeah. Thank you for noticing. You must be watching.
Okay.
And
no, I swear that was like totally because that's like obviously one of the dermatologist's like biggest, you know, things to deal with. That's
I get a mole check for skin cancer screening. Okay, so they took the melon baller to my back on this visit. You know, so. Oh gosh. Yeah. But you know what? You go back to the derm enough, you get enough biopsies. It's a great weight loss plan. So they did that, and then she was like. She wanted to give me a shampoo for dry scalp. She wanted to give me something for the seborrheic dermatitis, and then she mentioned the eczema, which really is the dry skin on the scalp. So she's like, "Here, I hear these 5 things. Check in a year." I'm like, "In a year's time, I'm going to be out of this stuff." So, there's no desire for care. It was just big pharma said, go spend some money. So I just never went and picked them up. I said, the hell with it. I'm not taking any of this crap.
No, you probably don't. And to be honest with you, if it is like dry scalp, it's like Head and Shoulders probably would fix that. So you probably don't even need, I mean, look, I'm probably giving you the worst medical advice.
I would never use it. I've used Head and Shoulders.
If like someone in my house had like a dry scalp, like he would say, go use some Head and Shoulders for like a month or
My skin is so much better in Florida than it's ever been. And I remember, so my grandfather, may he rest in peace, not only was he a veteran, he was a disabled veteran, and he suffered from lots of skin cancers, and he had horribly dry skin. I mean, to the point that it would flake off. And so he grappled with all of these things later in life. And he lived in West Palm Beach. And he couldn't turn his head left or right when he drove, okay, because he was a disabled vet. So whenever I got in the car with him, when he'd get to a traffic light, he'd have to lean all the way back to use his peripheral vision to see where he was going. The man was a disabled vet from the Korean War, okay? And I had no appreciation for any of these things as a kid, you know? The guy drove a blue Camaro. I'm like, look at you. You're pushing 80, cruising around in a Camaro. You're a disabled vet, you know, horrible skin, like whatever, like didn't stop him from cruising around in his Camaro. He just knew how to live. And
it's amazing.
Yeah, but I say all that because I think back to how he moved to Florida to help his skin, and his skin was still really, really bad. But it was so much better. And I know how much worse my skin was growing up. In Pennsylvania, my skin was so dry. And now it's like, it's manageable. So the idea of throwing a bunch of medicine on a because I know how much better it is than how it was over, you know, growing up and my whole life. Like the idea of throwing extra medicine on it, like the cost benefit analysis, like it's better than it's ever been. And I've gotten this far.
Right.
Why? I mean, I used to use like Neutrogena T-gel, stuff like that, tar shampoos. But the idea of putting 5 different chemicals.
So that'll do it too. I was going to say, yeah.
But the idea of putting 5 different chemicals in my body, and you're going to tell me none of those are carcinogenic?
Yeah. No, I know.
I mean, let me ask you this, and maybe you can't say this, and then I got to move on to the next call. But your husband's a dermatologist. Does he talk to you about carcinogenics in skin products?
I mean, occasionally it's definitely, so I mean, not as much as like other stuff we talk about, but yeah, I mean, I'm more like that. I'll show him stuff and I'll be like, especially with sunscreen, you know, because he's like a major sunscreen. Fanatic.
No, see, this is what you just took the words out of my mouth. I'm against sunscreen.
Okay, so if he saw you, you would get the 30-minute, you have to wear sunscreen lecture.
Well, then he should call in and tell me why I should wear sunscreen. No, because I'm going to tell him why I shouldn't wear sunscreen. Listen,
because you're worried about the chemicals and the
no. I'm going to give you my little anecdote, and then I have another call, and then you can report back with this, or he can call it. I'm in LA years ago on the beach hanging out.
Okay.
And I step on a puck of tar from the ocean. And now on the bottom of my foot, if you've ever stepped in tar, it doesn't come off. So now my foot is covered in tar. And the lifeguard comes over and he goes, "You have any sunscreen?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Just put sunscreen on your foot. It'll eat the tar right off." I'm like, "What?" So I take a glob of sunscreen and I wipe it on the bottom of my foot, and it literally eats the tar off my foot that wasn't coming off my foot. And when I saw that the sunscreen could eat the tar, I said, "What the hell is it doing to my body?"
Interesting. I want him to call in and talk about this stuff. I don't know. I mean, it's crazy, but he would probably argue, say, the amount of cases, there's no proof of, seeing any patient who's been using X sunscreen for so many years, getting something and dying from that. But I mean, that could go back to anything we're putting in our bodies.
Yeah, but you can't correlate. They're reporting now that alcohol leads to cancer. Did we not know that alcohol was a carcinogenic? I thought we all knew that.
Right. No, it's all good points.
So it's not the sunscreen, it's what's in the sunscreen. If it that's the question I have. And then on top of that, I'm somebody that has a known vitamin D deficiency. So now I have real questions.
Yeah, I do too. I have to take vitamin D supplements.
So how much is the sun? I haven't got sunburned since I moved to Florida. I think in many ways.
So you're.
I was just going to say, I think in many ways, I needed the sun to up my vitamin D.
Probably. So the reason I'm vitamin D deficient is probably because I'm sunscreening every time I'm outside. That's 100% why. So I have to take the vitamin D to supplement the lack of sun exposure I'm getting.
I don't know. I just because something's in a bottle on a shelf, I don't put it in my body. I'm very cautious about that.
I get it. Look, and you're probably lucky. Look, he'll tell people too all the time that there are different skin types, right? Like the boys in my family are extremely dark complected naturally. So like when they go outside, they don't really burn. So like the risk of like getting a skin cancer on them is probably lower than it is on like my daughter and myself, who are both more fair, and we'll go outside and we'll burn if we don't put something on. So,
right.
You know, I'm sure there's something to that too. So you're probably one of the lucky ones who is just a darker, you know, you probably don't burn when you're out. I don't think you do. I mean, I do, but
no, not since being in Florida. So listen, pleasure to talk to you. Happy New Year. Let us know what your husband says.
Thanks for taking my call. I know. I'm like, we could do a whole little lecture on why everyone should be sunscreening when they go to Disney World.
Listen, I just said earlier, I have no problem with somebody calling up and telling me I'm wrong. So I welcome his call, or at least
he
your
would
call.
Love that.
All right.
He will. And he's very good at persuading. So I'll keep you posted.
All right. We'll talk soon. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Roy.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.
734, you're on the air.
Hi, Royce. It's Colleen.
Hey, Colleen.
How are you? I'm just calling to say hi. I'm at work. My boss is at a meeting, so I have a minute.
Very cool. I did not open the package yet. I got a package from you and I know it's a cookbook from Jen because she said she was sending it, but I haven't opened them because I'm just like I open it on the live. It just only makes sense, so I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Well, it's most of what's in there, I think.
Okay.
Because we talked about it. So.
All right.
But yeah.
I'm going to make grits on the live at some point because Keena sent me grits.
Ooh, nice. Yes, I sent her a bunch of bread, so she's supposedly making it soon here.
Good.
So
good.
That was fun, but yeah, I love watching you try and cook on your show. It's fun.
Thank you. Well, there'll be more of that. I'm just trying to get it all figured out. I had something to say to you too, and I don't remember what it was now.
Oh.
It was something around cooking and food and all that. And I just don't remember what it was. It was something.
Sure.
Oh, but you know what I will say to you. And this is interesting. I got a food scale. Did you ever use one of these?
Yes.
Where it actually like you weigh the food and then on your phone it'll actually tell you like the calories and all that?
No, I don't have that kind, but I've weighed my food.
Okay. Just like with a regular, like a bathroom scale on the kitchen counter kind of thing?
Not a bathroom scale, a kitchen scale. Like a food scale.
What's the difference between a bathroom scale and a kitchen scale? Where you put it?
Big difference. Size, for one.
Well, not necessarily. I have a very petite bathroom scale. I have to stand on it. I have to balance 1 foot on it. It's very accurate. There's a visual.
Anyway.
You're welcome for that. It is. They sent it to me off the
that.
TikTok shop, and once you hook it up to your phone, so in other words, like I put an apple on it. It's not just going to weigh the apple, but then based off the weight, it's going to give me all of like the nutritional value.
Is it accurate though?
Well, I don't know. I was kind of hoping you were going to be like, oh, I've used one of those. It's totally not accurate. Like, that's what I was.
I haven't because I'm skeptical.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like, I mean, like if I get like a donut and put it on there, how's it going to know there's frosting on the donut, you know?
Right. That's not tell you my secret, but my secret is that I don't cook.
Well, that seems counterproductive to the Pampered Chef business.
Well, not necessarily. My husband does the cooking, but I can sell the crap out of kitchenware because I know how it works. I just don't use it because I don't enjoy it.
Why?
That's my secret.
That's funny. Why is she saying they need to take away my TikTok shop access? Take away your TikTok access is what I'm going to do.
What?
Nothing. Shelby said they should take away my shop access. I'm going to TikTok headquarters soon. I'm going to have them take away Shelby's TikTok completely. One phone call I make and Shelby will never be allowed on TikTok again. Yeah. I'm going to call Xi Jinping directly.
Your head.
What'd you say?
The power's going to your head.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Let's call the president of China right now and try to get Shelby banned from TikTok. He'd be like,
somehow, if anyone could do it, it would be you.
Well, let me tell you something. She's probably on China's radar anyway. I'm just gonna leave that alone. I can't do that. She has a 5,000 year sub. We're stuck with her. So I don't know how accurate the food scale is, but like I'm not somebody that counts calories. I dated a girl in college that counted calories on everything, which I thought was crazy. Mm-hmm. But as I've gotten older, I'm learning that maybe the best plan to lose some weight is to actually start to count my calories.
Yeah. I mean, I do Weight Watchers, so it's kind of along the same lines, but yeah, so I don't know. I think it's more about macros, like protein versus fiber versus carbs. Like, I think that's more, like the percentage of that is more important than actual calories.
Well,
because some people need more calories, but it's about how much protein you're getting versus how much carbs and how much fat. And there's an actual formula for that.
Well, I have a scale. Maybe the scale will be my...
Maybe the scale will tell you the formula.
Yeah. Now, I was hoping I could also weigh myself on this scale so I could just kind of like, from a workflow perspective, one less scale, but whatever. I'm not going to weigh myself on the food scale.
I'm not commenting. I think it's better if I don't comment.
Now I'm so curious. Say what you're going to say. I dare you.
I don't want to.
Because you're in a church and you can't say it.
Yes.
Oh boy. All right. So listen, anyway. I don't know what's going on. I got to figure out. I'll let you know ahead of time when I'm doing this thing, when I open the box and do the whole thing. But I'm supposed to go to LA, and I just don't know.
Right.
Does it even make sense? Why would I fly into LA in the middle of these wildfires?
No, that makes absolutely no sense. None. I mean, I have friends that are over there, and they're panicking, and they're not even anywhere near the fire.
Oh, I got some pictures this morning.
Like, there's no way.
No, it's horrible. It's horrible, and I just think like they shouldn't even be holding the event.
I think even if they're holding the event, I don't know that you should go because you're just putting yourself in that danger.
Yeah, I just don't understand why. Yeah, I mean, I feel bad, like just from the perspective of other things, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
On a different note, so this is kind of would you stop? It's not that bad. This is good. Well, maybe you don't think it's good, but I think it's good. So I'm coming to town in June.
Oh.
Because I earned a trip through Pampered Chef, a free Disney trip through Pampered Chef.
I saw that because I follow you on Instagram.
Yes. So I will be there in June. I'm excited. And my son's coming with me. So
all right, bring me a spatula.
So, bring you a spatula?
Yeah. I don't know. That's all I could think to say.
Let me know.
Now was that just sort of like a pick your trip, or was that
my carry-on? Was
that just coincidence that was the prize and you won?
No. So every year Pampered Chef offers an incentive trip, and there's different levels. This is every 5 years they go to Disney, and this is the 5th year I've been selling. So it's the first time I've been able to earn the trip. And I mean, they have different levels. Like there's 4 levels for the Disney trip. I earn the bottom level, but I do this part-time. Like it's not my full-time job. So I earned a trip for 2-day park hopper passes with a character breakfast and $500 travel allowance at Coronado Springs. Coronado Springs?
Oh, I love Coronado.
And so, and every level was higher. They get more people or they get, whatever. So, I'm bringing my son because he's the Disney person. And I was trying to get the silver level because that's trip for 4. But my husband and daughter don't really care about Disney. And I was like, why am I busting my butt to bring people that don't really care?
That's right.
So I just quit.
Good for you.
This year's we're earning a cruise, and my daughter really wants to go on that, and I've never taken her on a trip, so that's what I'm putting my efforts in. But yeah, so it's June 6th through 9th, and it's kind of exciting. Like Pampered Chef's going to take over the whole resort, and we're going to extend out and go to Epic. I think we're going to try and go to Epic.
You're not going to believe this, but June 6th through the 9th is when I'm going to visit Ellis in New Orleans.
You are You've got to be kidding.
No, that's such a weird coincidence.
Oh my gosh. That's not fair. You have to.
Somewhere Ellis is like, wait, he's coming to visit? What? Mom, get the gazebo ready. Because I'm staying in the gazebo, apparently.
Well, we'll talk, because I know I was thinking about coming in a day or two early, staying with some friends, and then we're extending out. So I'll be there a while.
All right. Well, I'll Skype you from NOLA.
There you go.
No, now I'm gonna have to deal with that. See
fun.
What I do? See, I'm gonna blame you for this now, because later he's gonna be like, "Are you really coming in June?" I'm like, "No, Ellis, it was a joke."
Hey, don't blame that on me. You're the one that said it live.
Yeah, this is true. It's it's what happens when you're riffing. It's all right. I've said a lot worse today. I'm certain of it. So I'll just
I know.
ixnay on the LSA.
And I couldn't listen to really detailed on everything you were saying earlier, but I think quickly then I got to go because I have like 2 minutes. But the whole like Gulf of America crap and all that crap is just crap. I'm so sick of all of that.
I know.
So just put that out there.
But we got 4 years of it.
So.
And I just want to be in a position where let's just talk about things. Like, let's just not be like stuck in our corners. No one's going to bite anyone's heads off because it's going to get nuts.
Yeah. Well, and even I'm in Michigan and they just put this cage-free egg rule in. So our eggs doubled in price last week. Like, it's insane. I'm just,
okay.
The whole, I don't know, just all the lies. I'm just so tired of it.
I know you got to go, but I heard cage-free egg roll, and you can imagine my confusion for the last 10 seconds.
Not roll.
Yeah, I know.
Like an egg roll.
But I was like, why are they caging egg rolls? I'll let you go, Colleen. I'll talk to you later. Goodbye.
Oh my God.
I was confused. Goodbye. I was like, what are they? I don't understand. Why? Anyway, thank you for calling in. I didn't know what that's what I heard. Q Ellis's call, 253-263-1540, 253-263-1540. Good morning, Keena. I don't know about going to Live Fest. It seems to me like the safest thing to do is not to go. I'm going to talk to my rep later and find out what they're thinking, but I really don't know. I don't know. 253-263-1540. We're live on TikTok. We're live on YouTube. I have integrated everything into the new setup. We're still streaming on a cell phone over here, and we are using half of the new setup that I showed you last night. Eventually, this will get fully integrated into everything, and we'll be off to the races. Now, my intent post this Live Fest trip, irrespective of whether we go or not, was to do another marathon. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm a few more pieces of tech troubleshooting away from being able to do a seamless marathon, which, to answer the question I just saw on TikTok, which will not just be playing games and Fortnite and whatever else we're doing, and not just doing the podcast and the radio presentation and Legos and all of that, but being able to seamlessly go from here to the park without cutting the live, being able to dip out to a pre-recorded presentation, maybe a Zen loop, a parade, an old show, something from a different park, and then cut right back in live from wherever we are in Disney World. So we're very, very close to actually executing on that. Yesterday, there was a test live from the Magic Kingdom, albeit about a 10-minute test. I was here. The camera was out there. The stream relayed back to my base station here and then retransmitted out to Twitch and TikTok. So what we're building is almost ready to be taken out into the real world and tested. So I think this next marathon is going to very much be exercising all of what we've learned from the last marathon, but now implementing it in a seamless way that I think, if everything is done correctly, will allow us to go without losing the feed, without having to restart the feed, allow us to cut away to prepackaged content, and then be able to be live in the park, cut back to prepackaged content, and then boom, we're live here playing video games. So I'm looking to do this next thing right after Live Fest. A couple more pieces of troubleshooting away from it, but I'm looking to implement all of that I just don't know if I'm going. I just don't know if I'm going. That's what I'm trying to figure out. All right. 253-263-1540. I want to thank all of our sponsors who kicked off this podcast with us. We went from 0 to 5 sponsors in no time. I admittedly have not taken the time to talk to all of my sponsors and even find out who is staying with us as we move forward. I don't expect everybody to, but I haven't even taken the time. So today I will message my sponsors and find out where we are. I will figure out if I'm going to travel to LA for Live Fest. I haven't sorted that out. We'll work that out. And then, we'll be back at it later today. I have the package from Colleen. I have the package from Jen. I have some items from the TikTok shop to share with you. So there's plenty to do, but I also have some content I need to make. I actually started 3D printing a Mickey Mouse Connect 4. I found the files online for a Mickey Mouse Connect 4 board. So let's see if I can grab that really quick without knocking over my coffee. So this right here, if you look at it, is the tray that pops in to drop the pieces and Connect 4. And if you look really closely, you can see that there's little supports in there for the Mickey Mouse that have to be knocked out. The little supports in there for the Mickey Mouse that have to be knocked out. But I wanted to make a video that I could put up before doing the animatronic because I'm still printing pieces for the animatronic Grogu, and I want to get all of that cooking, but I'm trying to make more printer content for them as well. Admittedly, I barely posted any content in the last few weeks. I've been so engrossed in all of this technology, but I think it's really starting to pay off. One of the cool things that I have figured out with you all is this notion of a Spotify lounge. And what I think is going to happen is, let's say we're in the park and we're doing our thing, and people are liking and sharing and gifting wherever they're choosing to interact and engage. And you're getting your points, right? You get your points for your shares. You get your points for being active in the chat. You get your points for gifting, whatever. It's different point thresholds. And you can use your points to do whatever. But I think what we'll do is, obviously, we're not going to muddy up being live from the park, with all of that. So what you do is you accrue your points, and then you could take a break and say, hey, I'm going home. I'll see you at the house for Fortnite. And during that break, and I'm still working this out, but maybe during that break, it triggers the Spotify lounge, and now you have the opportunity to hang out, request songs, spin the wheel, play games, unlock more points for yourself, whatever it may be. And whether you're listening to those songs there or you're queuing them up for play when I get back, I don't know. Maybe both. There's some logistics, some copyright issues I got to circumvent. But I like the idea of, hey, here's an interactive lounge where you can spend points, gain points, spin the wheel, unlock animations. It's a game lounge with music and just kind of a place to hang out. And then I come back in. Thank you, Brittany. And I come back in, and then we're live again. So it's all start to come together, but I think that we're really building an interactive TV channel. And I think it's a multi-platform interactive TV channel. And we're going to get to the point. Where you might even see something different on TikTok than you see on Twitch. And maybe that's a different camera angle in the same room. Or maybe I'm gaming on Twitch while we're live from the park on TikTok. The possibilities are endless. It all comes down to testing and testing and testing. And if you look at any of the stuff that I've been reading on how to implement some of this stuff, they tell you time and time again, the 3 things that you have to keep doing to ensure that things work the way you want is to test, to test, to test. So when you see me pop on like I did last night, I'm testing. But we're very, very close to full-on implementation. And I think once we're fully implemented, you'll see the growth come back. You'll see the audience come back. And then a lot of people are going to be like, oh my gosh, it's going to be like an overnight thing. But those of you that have been here for this journey, that have seen the building blocks slowly start to come together, are going to really understand where we came from and how we got here. And others are going to pop in and go, oh my gosh, what is this? What have I missed? I think it'll be really, really fun when we start to bridge that gap. All right, I'm going to wrap up the radio show with y'all. I think we've done more than enough talk for one day. You can get the radio show wherever you listen to your podcast. It's available on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast at Under the Influence. I want to thank all of our sponsors. I want to thank Colleen at Pampered Chef. I want to thank RK Law. I want to thank my friends at the UPS store and William.bailey Travel. And then, of course, Michelle Kennedy. So we have all, and then, oh my gosh, it's not Michelle, it's Nicole. Why did I just call her Michelle? Nicole M. Kennedy. I think the M stands for Michelle. I want to thank you all so much, and I will see you next time. I was close.